Okay, I'd like to open the planning board meeting for September 10th, 2018 at 7 p.m. Take a look at the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Filings?
Filing for 382 West Sutton Road. It's a scenic road filing. They're relocating an existing opening in Stonewall to a new spot based on a Conservation Commission application. And then they'll fill the old opening with the new stones. So you just need to acknowledge that filing.
So acknowledged.
Okay, Form A plans?
Okay.
Good evening, Travis Brown with Andrews Survey and Engineering here for a Form A plan. I have some color copies I will hand out. Just to follow along.
Thank you.
So with this plan here, I've colored it up. There are no new lots being created as a result of this. It's a boundary line adjustment between two neighbors, number 90 and number 96 Armsby Road. Number 90 is highlighted in pink. The portion of land or the parcel they'll be getting, parcel A, is shown there colored in pink, which is comprised of 5,184 square feet. The land owned by Ron Porter, number 96 Armsby Road, is highlighted in green. The portion of land that he will be getting, which is the exact same square footage as parcel A, would be that L-shaped parcel in the back that's highlighted green. These lots maintain the R factor. They meet minimum lot width and frontage. The frontage hasn't changed since they were originally cut out. The intent here is just to change the boundary lines for a land swap.
Anybody have any questions?
It wasn't my best subject in school, but I couldn't figure out where Ars Shy Road was on the actual application. Just what it says, 90 ARSHY Road. I was saying, where the hell is that? Then I'm looking at the map, and I wasn't a good speller. I sat next to smart people who share things like that with me. So, if that needs, on our stuff, that needs to get fixed so we can
Yeah, I think the plan is correct. It may have been missed on the format. Okay.
use that digit often.
Okay, so you just need a motion to approve or endorse the Form A plan dated 8/16/18.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Okay, so just the chairman needs to sign that. Oh, and I don't. Grab a pen.
Oh, you need a.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing really good. He took, Nadine, but shocking.
Whichever you prefer, that's the thing.
Anything to make sure there's necessary things,
He loves that too. He'd come home with stories.
but good to know you don't know all that.
You're gonna take those.
All right. Correspondence?
You have a letter from Tony or an email from Tony Ranka dated Tuesday, August 28th. I'll just read that to you. Our project at 214 Worcester Providence Turnpike is moving along nicely, and we hope to be in our new chiropractic clinic before the end of the year. I wanted to make a request to change the material for the walkways for patient safety reasons. The current approval plan shows stone pavers used for the walkways, and I wanted to use smooth concrete instead. I have many patients that seek treatment at my clinic that require the aid of canes, walkers, wheelchairs to ambulate, and some that just have a difficult time lifting their legs due to lower back pain. Just this year, I had a couple of patients trip on the handicap ramp and fall down due to a board that had warped. The current medical facility I practice in has concrete walkways to minimize patients catching a toe. Allowing us to construct the walkways with a smooth concrete will make it easier for those patients to ambulate and reduce their risk of catching a toe, cane, or walker on a seam and injuring themselves. Earlier this year, I made a similar request to the Sutton Board of Appeals regarding the safety of a handicap ramp for an overhang. I was granted a special permit to add a roof over the handicap ramp to prevent the ramp from becoming wet or icy during inclement weather. This was granted for the safety of my patients because it reduced their risk of slipping and falling. Thank you for considering my request.
All right.
So.
Anybody have any questions or thoughts? All right. Go ahead.
Certainly, it makes good sense. But everything that we do has ramifications. I'm just thinking about when, in other things we do as a planning board, sometimes there's how do I wanna put it, a driveway can't have the wires up because of geography, because of, and I want this to happen, but, do we need to think about safety as a reason for people to ask for waivers from the rules, as opposed to just, a topographical thing that we can't deal with?
I actually think you did a pretty good job in this email of demonstrating a unique and specific reason in this case, because of the type of business and the unique patients, the type of patients that would use the chiropractic clinic for his request. So obviously I don't make the decision, but again, I think he did a really good job of stating why it's very specific to this use and this clientele and wouldn't necessarily apply. But safety is always a great reason to think of things. But again, saying we want smooth walkways at the grocery store because some people might use it who have walkers or wheelchair is different than a lot of, if not the majority of the people using this specific use are going to have back issues, ambulation issues, you know. So it's different. I think he actually, I was kind of impressed by how he presented his appeal in a very specific way.
Through the chair, I'm all for it, but I don't want this to be something that people come back and say, I don't wanna do it in front of my store.
And you know, should you decide you're going to vote to waive this as part of your motion, you wanna be very, very specific on saying, you know, this is specific to this use, it is specific to this appeal for these reasons, we find it's appropriate, blah, blah, blah.
I'll be happy to make that motion for just those reasons, if you wanna write that down. That it is specific to this site and this business.
And clientele, who may
And
be
their clientele.
experiencing back, spine, and movement/ambulation issues. Great motion, Bob.
I'll second it. I have some of the same concerns as Bob as far as precedent. And I understand Dr. Ranka's position as well.
All right. Any other discussion?
And I think, well, probably to add into that, he's had two people that actually have, tripped and fallen on his walkways. So that's sort of a, not to repeat kind of thing, so he's looking out for his
Oh,
patients.
yeah, definitely. The other thing about this too is we talk about block walkways in terms of the Route 146 overlay district and really, quality, visibility. And you know where this new site is situated, it actually is kind of set back a little bit. Nobody other than the people walking on it are going to see those block walkways.
Right.
So it's unique in that aspect too. It's a very small section of walkway and it's set back off Route 146. And only a person walking on it is really going to see it. That's a unique aspect.
He has lots of
as well.
blocks on his property now, so.
Mhm. Yes, retaining wall blocks, lots of big ones. So,
All right, any other discussion? I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. All right, so chapter 61A release, 179 8 Lots Road. I'm going to step down since it's an abutting neighbor.
so Bob, you're gonna take over as the chairman. What it appears is this, we've already recommended that the town pass over their first right of refusal on all of these lots that were formerly, Cronin's lots on 8 Lots Road, adjacent to John's house, obviously not all 5 are adjacent to John's lot, but the land was as a whole. It looks like one of those sales fell through, so we get to do it again, on one of the lots. So that would be number 1798 Lots Road. We just need a motion whether the town should, whether the planning board recommends that the town exercise its first right of refusal and buy this lot for $165,000, or for 2.81 acres, or the town recommend or the planning board recommend that the town pass over its first right of refusal to purchase this land for reasons we've stated in the past, that this land is not on a priority list of parcels that we need or would like to acquire. It's pretty small, and it's a pretty big ticket, and it wouldn't really connect to any existing systems or.
I'll make a
Scott?
motion that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen that the town pass over the opportunity to purchase 179 8 Lots Road, as it does not fit into our open space master plan.
Second.
Any comments? Not from the board, any comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. 4-0. Abstained.
Bob? Alright, just, wanted to just acknowledge for the public that, we did receive an appeal to the board's Forest Edge decision. The town of Grafton has filed an appeal, and the, basis for the appeal is pretty much consistent with what you saw in correspondence from the town of Grafton. So that appeal was filed, and we will, we may need to talk in the next meeting in executive session just how the town and the board want to approach their defense on that appeal. But I just wanted the board to know that and the public to know that that decision of the planning board was appealed.
All right, so acknowledged. All right, and then I also want to bring to attention to the board, it was brought to my attention that there's some concerns with some of the plantings at around Market 32 in Unibank at the Galaxy development site, and the plantings have grown quite a bit, and they're blocking the view, particularly if you're coming from the parking lot where the Market 32 is and going to cross over to go to Unibank. It's very hard to see through the shrubbery, and there's no stop sign for the people coming off of 146 and going into the Market 32 parking lot. So you have to kind of edge out, and it's kind of a dangerous situation. And also, conversely, coming from Unibank and going across the other side to the Market 32, the shrubbery is pretty big there as well. So I went down and checked it out myself, and I fully agree that
Okay,
definitely should be addressed.
so I'll contact Galaxy and have them look into that and get that trimming done ASAP.
Okay. And we'll review it again to make sure that it's adequate.
No problem.
Not shrubbettes.
Yeah. These are
The opposite.
these are the
There you
opposite.
go.
They've grown very well, yeah.
Yes.
That's both ways.
Alright, so,
Alright.
7:05, you have, John Tower from 438 Putnam Hill. John?
Yep.
Yes, John, come on up. John is here with an application for waiver of site plan review, and I will let him explain why the building commissioner referred him to us and leaves this matter completely in your hands.
Excuse me.
So I don't know if anybody has seen that as of yet.
Yes.
Yes, we
We
have.
have that.
Yeah, we have that.
Okay.
Good bookkeeping.
Just in case. So, yes, essentially, I'm just, transitioning. I've been a construction, business for most of my life. And, so, due to health concerns, I now need to use my brain more than my brawn. And, so I'm opening a virtual bookkeeping business, which is primarily servicing customers online with bookkeeping and tax preparation. Rarely, if ever, will I have really customers coming to my office, but I don't want to discount that it could happen on occasion, so I said, you know, like I said, this is a virtual business. All the accounting happens in the cloud. I do virtual meetings through a software called Zoom. So a couple of my clients are in Florida. They're not likely to stop in. And so just in regards to, I mean, it's a duplex. The side where my office is has a separate driveway with room for at least 4 cars. In the event that somebody did come, there would be a place for them to park off-street. So I don't really anticipate any impact to the community. Any questions?
And this is zoned village, is this?
Village, yes.
Very nice.
And right now, you were running your,
Carpentry.
Carpentry
remodel
out of there.
business out of there.
okay.
Oh, near the Baptist church.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
John, first of all, and I'm sure I'm speaking for the board, thank you for coming in.
Oh.
Most people, well, they should. On the surface, for me, I appreciate you coming in, and it's nice to know when things are changing at a residence. The decisions we make as a board have
That's,
ramifications,
Mhm.
so it's
Yeah,
for
okay.
everyone
Right.
all
It's just up
throughout
the
the
road.
town. I'm trying to imagine why a 911 call would end up at the wrong address. Is there a safety concern? I can't think of any reason why I couldn't support this personally. That's my,
Yeah.
but I appreciate you coming in.
Seems like a good application for the area too, you know, it's not,
Right.
you know,
It's-
nothing really
I'm not
gonna
opening
disturb
a
the
welding
neighborhood.
shop or
Right.
something that's gonna be disruptive or you know, in any way detracting from the village area.
You have a comment?
John, you currently run a business on the other side of the duplex, correct? And
I
you-
currently, well, we haven't really had a tenant in there for quite some time, so it's technically.
Convenient space to
Yeah,
use.
convenient space. We had purchased it initially as a place for our parents to age out. And the only parent left at this point is my mother, and we just moved her to Maine.
Oh.
She went from a 2-bedroom, 1-bath to a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and she's the only one living there, but that's a irrelevant discussion. So, I am transitioning out of the construction business because of my health concerns. I'm not able to continue to effectively take care of my family. I still have
So-
children.
What I'm getting at is there's 2 locations that it could fall in, and you cite D1 as, which is a permitted use in the village.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your home because it's the second side of the duplex that you're gonna use for this office, correct?
Right, I mean, it's,
Okay. According to this, it's permitted use in my eyes.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, this is just, he's requesting that the site plan hearing be waived.
And if you go to a different part, it's a home business,
Mhm.
so that's a special permit,
Mhm.
either way.
Yeah, and John actually didn't think he really met the criteria for home business, because when you read the definition of that, it's well above what he's
right.
planning on doing. He's more of a home occupation than a home business, which business has regular customers coming to it, and may
Right.
have up to 2 full-time equivalent employees, which he doesn't have.
No,
So-
well,
So, yeah, John agreed, permitted use, but he wanted to make sure the board was okay with waiving the
Waiving s-
hearing.
For change in use.
Mhm.
Anybody have concerns with waiving site plan review?
I don't,
No.
I'm fine.
No? All
We
right.
need a motion to that effect, and basically what your finding is, why you don't think you need one.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And what is why do you not think it's required? Minimal impact,
Yeah.
won't really change the nature of the neighborhood or
Right.
the
It's a
building.
minimal impact in a permitted use because
Mhm.
it's in village.
Because he came in, because he wants to do it right. And that speaks volumes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's true.
And if it's gonna change, we need to know about it. That should also be speaking volumes. If someone wants to buy your business and do something else, it'd be appropriate to also.
Well, being construction and remodeling for 40 years now, I'm well acquainted with towns and committees and going through the channels to make sure that everybody's on the same page, so.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So John, so that's a second by you, Bob?
Yep. Haven't called the vote yet?
No.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
And you'll get a letter. If I will CC it to the building department so they know that site plan has been waived and you are approved to operate the use as you stated in your application at this location.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Nice to meet
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Hey, Bob, you want to read the public hearing notice for Sutton Solar LLC, 25 Oakhurst Road?
In accordance with the provisions of the Sutton zoning bylaw table of use regulations, 4C, site plan review, the planning board will hold a hearing on the application of the Sutton Solar 2 LLC, Boston, Mass. The applicant intends to construct a 1.1 megawatt ground-mounted solar facility and associated site improvements at 25 Oakhurst Road. The hearing will be held in the Sutton Town Hall, 3rd floor, on Monday, September 10th at 2:18 at 7:10 p.m. Copy of the application can be inspected in the office of the town clerk during normal office hours.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Alex Curlin. I'm a development manager at Nexant Solar. We are one of the largest community solar developers in the region. We've constructed over 100 megawatts of community solar in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, Maryland, etc. We develop, construct, own and operate all of our projects for the lifetime of the asset. We're one of the few developers out there who are there for the long haul. We monitor all of our projects from a 24-hour monitoring room and team in Boston, Massachusetts, where our headquarters are. So today we're going to talk about the 1 megawatt expansion project that we're developing on Oakhurst Road, which you can see right there. It's immediately adjacent and next to an existing Nexamp solar project that has been operating for some time now. This project is very similar to the original. I guess the only thing that we would call out is probably we will have battery storage on this project. So that's one of the differences in this project than the other. But other than that, so our outside engineer is Andrew Survey, and Steve McCall here will walk us through the site plan. And I'm available for any other questions that you might have.
Thank you.
Good evening, thank you. Thanks, Alex. For the record, Steve O'Connell from Andrews Survey and Engineering. Just illustration-wise, this is the existing array that was part of the permitted project around 2013. And that site access is gained right off Oakhurst Road, right in this location here. There are overhead poles here, 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 and here for the interconnection of the system.
Steve, can you turn that this way just a little bit? A little bit more.
What do you got on TV?
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm gonna highlight in pink just kind of where the existing axis is, just so I can show you in contrast where the proposed axis is gonna come. So that's generally the existing access point off Oakhurst Road. There's an area for emergency vehicles to go in and get off the road, and then they can kind of make a maneuver if they needed to get in here and back around and get out. So this phase 2 of the project is proposing to utilize that existing point of entry, and we'll expand it in this direction here. Again, provide turning maneuverability for emergency apparatus. It's going to go up, and it's going to be inside the array, but right around here will be the gate. So outside the gate, there's maneuverability. There's going to be additional poles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 poles, 2 of which are National Grid poles. That's kind of standard. One of the other components that's unique about this project and came up in Jen's review memo was that why are these panels oriented north-south and the others are kind of oriented east-west? And the reason is that this is going to be a tracking rack system. So it's going to be something that's probably new to me, new to the board, but I've brought a couple of samples just to kind of give you an idea.
Thank you.
And what it does, the tracking system allows the maximum efficiency. So from a much smaller footprint, you get a fairly high output. So this the first 2 sheets are from the manufacturer, and then the large photographs are samples from photographs from the manufacturer's website. So there's a gear, a small motor.
Anyone that wants this?
Neighbor.
Have an extra. So that's the explanation for why the panels are oriented the way they are, versus these phase 1, which were fixed tilt 20 to 25 degrees. These will track the sun incrementally. If you stood there and watched them, you wouldn't see it move, but if you came back at the end of the day, they'd be opposite in the beginning of the day. And then, like Alex said, there's a storage component, and we're seeing this in all of the newer solar projects. So there's batteries that are contained within a designated container from the battery manufacturer. The batteries are sealed, the container is sealed. It sits on a concrete pad. It's gonna be right here, within the fence of the array. And what that storage does, it allows electricity that's produced throughout the day from the modules to be collected into the batteries and then distributed through the circuit and the local distribution system off-peak. So instead of having kind of live kilowatts going into the circuit, and if there's no room in the circuit, they kind of get log jammed kind of on site in the equipment. They go through the battery system, fill up the batteries, and then trickle out as the capacity in the circuit allows for it. This is our third project this year that has a battery component, so it's definitely something we're seeing as a technology with these advances. Smaller footprints, higher output, or same output on a smaller footprint in the battery storage component. Generally no concerns from emergency personnel regarding the batteries. They just, they wanna be informed like they do about everything else. They wanna know what the, emergency protocols are. They want contact information. All that stuff is provided on signage. Same as the projects without the battery storage. So, the other component of this project, which I know was on Jen's hit list, was the plantings. And in our very first meeting with the applicant a few months back, it was something that they brought to our attention. It was something that they knew that had to be addressed. So the shrubettes, I think we can coin that term, that show up.
Right there.
Yep, on the
To the right are the screening plantings, the ones with the stakes.
yeah. So they're green.
As you can see, they're not
Unlike
really
other
screened.
projects where they're brown, they're green, but they just really haven't grown.
No, and you
Those
can see-
will be addressed, and we'll provide revised plans that incorporate some comments provided to us by Jen.
That's what was supposed to be
Yeah.
installed there and growing there. You can see these 60 to 70 feet
And that is
high.
absolutely our intention, and that's absolutely what we will accomplish with this phase. And, as part of this phase, go back and make sure that those phase one plantings are enhanced. And I think what we'd like to do is leave those plantings, but then in a staggered row behind them.
Do these, unless those are white pines.
I think those are white pines.
Yeah,
Which
so you
are-
need something like that, that'll stay.
Yeah, we
Full
want a
ground.
true Leland cypress, and the tags are still on those, so we're gonna go verify, that what was spec'd was installed.
Yeah, they could've just not, planted them correctly as well. We were kinda racking our brains how
Yeah,
these
maybe they
things-
didn't cut the burlap off the root ball.
Or that's a dwarf Leland cypress.
Yeah, and then we're gonna spec, something that's a little bit more mature at planting time.
I know it's a pretty gravelly area. I don't know if that's a factor in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, Leland cypress is supposed to do well in acidic, sandy, well-drained soils. But for one reason or other, those, they're healthy, they're just not growing as fast as we all hoped.
Yeah.
No, and they're supposed to do 3 to 4 feet a year.
Yeah. So that's gonna be, something we're gonna investigate right away, and like I said, it's something it's certainly enforceable under the original permit, and we want to address as part of this phase. So, we absolutely will. So we, as you may recall, part of this project actually lies within Northbridge, so the northerly half, it's about half of the electricity output, production and output. So that, we have a hearing tomorrow night in Northbridge for the planning board. We have also filed what they call RDAs, request for determination of applicability, with both towns' conservation commissions. We have no work proposed in jurisdictional areas, but the applicant, as a matter of procedure, likes to check that box. It's good practice. So from a stormwater management standpoint, very straightforward, just like the first phase. Runoff, the amount of runoff that comes off of the site is a result of the quantity of rain that falls out of the sky and how much can be absorbed into the soil and the vegetation based on the vegetative cover, in simple terms. And you actually get less runoff when you go from a site that's barren like this than when you would get if you added vegetation like the project proposes to do, like the first phase. So it's actually an easy mathematical equation. You get less runoff when we're done with the project because we're planting a grass, clover mixture that generates less runoff. And I believe you'll get confirmation of that from your review engineer.
Where is it? Can you show me where the town line is?
Yep, it's this line
Oh,
here.
okay.
I have, if you don't mind me using pink again. That's the town line. So this is LaSalle Road, and then in Sutton, it's Oakhurst Road. And Valley Parkway is essentially the driveway to Walmart.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions? Any questions from the public? All right. Do we have department comments? Oh, go ahead.
Just because of recent experience with Forest Edge, we're only dealing with the stuff in our town, not
Right.
Right.
We are only
get
dealing with
nervous
stuff.
when we straddle town lines and start approving things that are connected somehow,
Yeah,
some way.
their public hearing is tomorrow night, starts tomorrow night. The only thing we did, initially agree to do, like we did on the other phase, was to share a consulting engineer, and Jeff Holland is their consulting engineer. I've been attempting vigorously to confirm that Jeff was getting this project reviewed, and that if he wasn't getting it reviewed, that we would just use Jeff Walsh, because he had assured me he could review it relatively quickly. It's not complicated in terms of drainage. It's my understanding Northbridge hadn't heard back from Jeff Howland, so we don't have an engineering review as of tonight. So, also outstanding as of this morning at 9:28 are taxes on the property. Now, it's the applicant's understanding that those may have been paid online. So
On Friday, yeah.
So I will double check with the tax collector tomorrow and see if there's a delay between the online system and it takes another day to process. But as of this morning, they hadn't been registered, so we'll double check on that as well.
Okay.
Part of our responses to review comments we've received, primarily from Jen to date, we'll be providing some revised plans, certainly to illustrate the proposed plantings. But I think we'll also be supplementing with a waiver request, and I just wanted to clarify, in case we had to discuss it. Jen, your comment says panels, fence, and drive are in the setback, but it's just the drive, the site access.
Oh, where's the 50 feet fall?
Right there.
Oh, okay.
So
Alright,
we're
that's
outside,
fine.
but we will, because we know your
Yeah.
position on site drives and
Sure.
maneuvering aisles, so we'll make that request. We checked our records, didn't come up the first time, might have been something we all missed, but
Mhm.
I know, for consistency with the sake position you take, so,
Mhm.
we'll make that request. And other comments are easily addressable.
Okay, we do have some departmental comments. One Steve has already addressed in terms of making sure you're not in wetland jurisdiction, and if you are within chapter 131 jurisdiction, that you need to Kyle. Fire department has requested a dual Knox box at the gate. And Nick Nunemacher had several questions. The actual total area in square feet and acres of the two parcels, I believe I also called that out as a comment as well. Is the open flat area west of the proposed addition to the solar facility going to be phase 3? You can answer that question. And is the no solar facility to be owned and operated by Sutton Solar LLC?
So I provided written responses to those just early this evening, not because I was trying to get them in, just because it was something I needed to do and got it done, knowing that we'd be back.
Mhm.
So you should have those in email. I can give you my written responses. They're fairly straightforward. The first one is provides acreage and square footages for the parcels owned by the property owner in Sutton. The second comment about land to the west, it is not the applicant's intention and not in the plans. And we're working for the applicant, not the landowner, but there's not their intention. There's no phase 3, so to speak, in the cards. So
That would all be jurisdictional, right?
it would be,
For a lot of
there's a
it.
very good chance much of it would be jurisdictional from a conservation standpoint. And then the third comment was, is this facility be owned and operated by Sutton Solar LLC, which was the applicant for the first project? And the short answer is yes, because it's the same parent company in Nexamp. And as Alex indicated, they own and operate and maintain all of their own infrastructure and assets. So yes, a separate entity has been set up for this project, Sutton Solar 2. For all intents and purposes, it's the same parent, it's the same company. So that answer is yes.
All right.
And did you have a copy of the hearing notice for tomorrow night's hearing in Northbridge, as well as the email between Gary and I, just trying to coordinate our engineering
Yep.
review?
Yep, I'll get to the bottom of that tomorrow night and get back
Yes,
to you.
if you don't, I will. Jeff is ready and willing to review this.
I would very
If,
much like Jeff to do that.
If we do not have Jeff Holland on board. They're both excellent engineers, but Jeff Holland is a full-time engineer for the town of Shrewsbury, last I knew.
Correct.
I would assume his time is limited.
All right, so any other questions or comments from the board? From public?
How close does that get to the wetland that's down the bottom of the street?
Let the board know your name and address first.
Oh, sorry, Margaret Stevens, 47 Oakhurst Road.
Okay.
What was the question? I couldn't hear.
The proximity to the wetlands.
Okay.
So the limit of our project is here in green, you know, it's from the closest point to wetland resource areas. And, you know, the wetlands are in here by these big dark black diamonds, those are the wetland flags.
And you wanna know closer to the road though, right?
Well, the distance between the end of that and where the wetlands are.
Or less, okay.
Right, at the bottom of the street.
At the bottom of the street.
Bottom of the street,
Well,
The end of LaSalle Road and,
Main Street.
yeah,
Yep. Well, that's a large
wetland.
wetland.
yeah.
So, but the closest point to the project, we are, I would say it's about 400 feet, because there's actually a riverbank there. And anything within 200 feet would require conservation jurisdiction. Here's the 200-foot line, and if I take that distance, we're more than double the 200. So we're over 400 feet, probably pushing 600 feet.
Okay, it's hard to tell looking at that.
Yeah, I understand.
Close to 600?
That's correct, yeah.
Okey dokey.
All right, any other questions? All right, so we want a motion to continue?
All right, and your next available time slot is the 24th at 7:20.
All right, who wants to make that motion?
Make a motion to continue to September 24th at 7:20 PM.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good job. Good luck
Scott, you'll be missing on the 24th of September?
Yeah.
No Scott Hall.
All right,
Thank you. So you gotta make sure Wally watches.
all right, so we're now gonna do the 7:30 public hearing for definitive subdivision 85 Gilmore Drive, South Sutton Commerce Park. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, 81T, the planning board will hold a public hearing on the application of landowner Sutton Outlook Ventures LLC of Bedford, New Hampshire. The application is for approval of a two-lot definitive subdivision plan entitled Sutton, South Sutton Commerce Park Phase 4, prepared by Andrews Survey and Engineering, Inc., Uxbridge, Mass., for a private extension of Gilmore Drive. The hearing is scheduled for September 10th, 2018 on the third floor of the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Massachusetts, at 7:30. A copy of the plan and application can be inspected in the office of the town clerk during normal office hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at that time and place designated.
Good evening, Travis Brown with Andrews Survey and Engineering here on behalf of Sutton Outlook Ventures. This is for the application of the definitive subdivision, which has been filed on the heels of the site plan review process that we previously went through recently for 85 Gilmore Drive. Much of this plan remains exactly the same as that Prime Metals 85 Gilmore Drive site plan. The width of the pavement remains the same, the curbing, the layout and grading remains the same. The reason for this filing is to create 2 lots. So this lot 9R here, and this lot 10 here. So to provide that lot frontage, width and regularity factor for those 2 lots, we've extended this way down here that comes around the cul-de-sac portion that was set up for vehicles to make this turning movement. So that is now the proposed right-of-way. It's approximately 820 feet. The Gilmore Drive terminus is currently here, so we're going to come off of that and maintain that roadway. Down here is a existing emergency access road that comes out to Mendon Road for the site development. We've received review comments from Graves Engineering. We've addressed those. We've also received comments from Jen in a memo. We've addressed those comments as well as those from Mr. Nunemacher, comments from the assessor. We've requested a number of waivers on this. A lot of those are redundant. You'll see that as we kind of discuss those waivers. For clarity, we've shown this proposed emergency access road off of the existing cul-de-sac. We've actually requested a waiver from that with the elimination of that proposed emergency access road. Again, there's an existing one here. This dead end is about 820 feet. So we provided access points into the site at about station 300 here. And then there's kind of a second access point at station 5, which actually continues up to about station 7, which can provide means of emergency access. In addition to that, this isn't a regular roadway with 24 feet of pavement. There's 30 feet of pavement here that provides excess width for those vehicles to be able to maneuver safely out of there. So I did speak to Jen about the elimination of this and some of the points. These buildings, this building here shown in particular, will be sprinkled. As I mentioned, there's multiple access points on that roadway. That combined with the 30 feet of width, feel like this is kind of a unique situation for a dead end of this length in town. We thought it was a good idea to run this by the fire chief, which we did today. Provided him a sketch of what was existing out there as far as hydrants and water lines, and he was comfortable, I'll let Jen speak to this too, not having this second emergency access road. He thought that the existing one, in conjunction with things that we just discussed, he would be comfortable not providing that. With that, there's, like I said, a number of waivers. If you want to go through one by one, Jen.
We'll group some of them. All right. The first one we'll group is 3C1F and 3C2G. That is a scale waiver. They provided a location plan in the scale of 1 inch equals 150 feet as opposed to 1 inch equals 200 feet. It's just so it's more legible, and it still shows all the required area and required information. So So that is the first two waivers that can be voted together. I don't know if you want me to address them one at a time, I would recommend that. Do you have any questions about providing a larger scale plan than a smaller scale plan?
Go ahead.
If Nick's fine with it, I'm fine. He's the guy that ends up having to read the plan, so is it good planning, Nick?
Well, Nick got a tiny set of plans, that was an accident in our office, he should have been given a full-size set. But other than that, what do you think?
I think that the roadway portion of that should be at 1:40 like all the rest of the plans that you have. There are so many lines and labels and hatching in that particular area of the roadway, it's difficult to read.
Now, we did give didn't you give an additional plan?
I did, I provided a second sheet to the definitive, so the definitive sheet is at a scale of 1 to 100, I believe. So we provided a cut sheet, that a lot of that, as Mr. Nunemacher said, was not legible in this area of the roadway with easements and meets and bounds. So we provided a second sheet at 40 scale, easily legible, so we believe that comment's been addressed.
All right, good with it?
Duly noted, and was a great one, so it was addressed.
All right. Any other questions or concerns from either the board or the public?
You wanna
Do
make
I
a
have a motion?
motion? I'll make a motion that we grant the first waiver request.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Okay, the next waiver request is 3C21. The profile of the road is not on the center line through the cul-de-sac. It is through the remainder of the road, but not through the cul-de-sac. The applicant has stated I'll let you explain that, it's a little wordy, but it makes sense to me, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
So what we did was we ran the center line of this right-of-way, this roadway down in this direction. Instead of going through the cul-de-sac, because this is just generally the turnaround, that road continues and the grading of that road is more accurately depicted on the profile if it's running through there where the drainage structures and utilities would be.
So it's where the utilities are, and that's the part of the pavement which is going to be utilized
To gain access to the
most
rear.
most often, right? So that lower section is for truck turning movements.
That's right.
Right? Okay, when they're going into loading docks and.
Any thoughts or questions?
Make a motion to grant that waiver.
All right,
Second?
all right. Any comments from the public? Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5?
Yep.
Here, I'm gonna group 4 together now. Ready? 4A2K, 4A3, 5I1, and 5G1. This deals with, instead of a 50-foot right-of-way, this is a 40-foot right-of-way. Instead of 26 feet of pavement, we have 30 feet of pavement. Instead of 2 sidewalks, we have no sidewalks. Instead of granite curving, we have concrete curving. Okay? The applicant has stated this will be a private way. It has been designed to meet the potential users considering safety and maintenance concerns. So they felt they needed more pavement consistent with the rest of the roadway. The right-of-way width is consistent with right-of-way widths that have been proposed elsewhere in town, and no apparent need to go to 50 feet. There are no sidewalks because they are not encouraging walking along this section of this roadway. And the concrete curbing is consistent with the curbing in the rest of the park.
All right, any questions or concerns from the board?
I'll make a motion we grant those 4 waivers.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Can public take question?
Mm-hmm.
Ben Draper, 15 Barnett Road. So you're saying that this is a private way. Is there going to be mechanisms to prohibit access? So that, I mean, if it's not obvious that it's private, then essentially can be considered public, and then the conditions of the way will impact the people who are on it. So, just a question about that.
Yeah, there'll be a sign placed at the end of the terminus of Gilmore Drive as it exists with a private way sign designation, indicating that it will in fact be private.
I made him add that to the plans.
I mean, I think for most adults, that should be enough, necessary, but I know that kids ride their bikes in that area, that sort of thing, and with the existing traffic, with the Ross trucks and whatever this facility is gonna be used for, there is some concern about that.
True. Unfortunately, they should not be riding their bikes in the industrial
Yeah,
park.
I was
I'm
gonna
sure they
say.
do, but,
Well,
but
it's the
yeah.
best place to learn to ride your bike, up until now.
Up and down your
Up at the school.
driveway.
Bring them to the schools where we brought our kids.
Sundays.
Yeah, you definitely, yeah, it's nice that they have sidewalks in the rest of the park to ride their bikes on, but it's a really dangerous place for them to be.
20 years of encouragement.
Mhm.
I mean, my kids aren't riding their bikes anymore in that area, but
Mhm.
it's a great place to go.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm just saying,
Mhm.
conditions until now
Mhm.
haven't required it, and it sounds like conditions going forward might, and therefore should be taken into consideration.
It's up to you guys.
Do you think the private way sign addresses
Not
that
for
or not
kids,
enough?
no. I mean, I know a gate probably isn't,
Mm-mm.
won't work, but, I don't know, something to consider.
Hand in the back.
Yep. Yep, go ahead.
I believe although all the rest of Gilmore Drive has got a Cape Cod berm. Why are we doing concrete, why are they proposing concrete here?
Whole thing is-
Well, this originally started as a site plan, 485 Gilmore Drive. You know, we had no intentions of this cul-de-sac, but, you know, interpretations of lot width and regularity factor and such, we needed to create this. But the rest, a lot of the sites in the existing park actually have precast concrete curb.
Along the existing roadway, it's concrete, isn't it?
No.
Cape Cod berm with
Within-
granite inlet stones at the catch basins.
Okay. So just at the basins.
Right, within the actual sites, individual sites.
Mhm.
So what I'm hearing is, it's a different type of construction on the edge of the roadway. You're gonna put up a sign that says private way. In my eyes, it's an industrial park. Say what you will, but it's not a place for kids to be playing. And I think the distinguishing factor between what you propose, concrete curb, versus the other road, changes the appearance, the signage. I'm good with that.
Anybody else have any comments? No? Anybody else from the public? All right, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to grant this waiver.
We have a motion, right?
Do we?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Bob,
do.
second by Miriam.
All right, yeah, sorry. We already did that, all right,
Pay attention.
yes. All right, we'll call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Okay. 4A, 5A, 850-foot dead-end street as opposed to 500 feet. I think, Travis, you already touched on the reasons you stated in your memo. The site and road has hydrants and a sprinkler building. There are several access points into the main lot before 500 feet, that including at 300 feet and from 500 to 700 feet. There is an increased pavement width of 30 feet. And the fire chief has said he is fine with no emergency access, with consideration or input on hydrant locations and working with the applicant on possible connections to the existing hydrants on the existing emergency access that already exists. And Travis can show you where the existing hydrants already exist. And that
Yes, so there's 3 existing hydrants. There's one here at the end terminus of Gilmore Drive, in this location, so this is the emergency access road here. there's a hydrant here, and then down near the intersection of that emergency access road and Mendon Road, there's also a hydrant. So there's 3 hydrants along that stretch, which the fire chief was, I guess we would open the door to have him provide input, connecting to those, fighting any fires with that building.
And while he thought in almost any case, there's enough room on the pavement width, there's enough room with the different openings to get a truck down and run the line and not worry about getting people out. His thought was, if there was a particular situation, if he could tie to one of the existing hydrants on the emergency access, he could pull a fire truck in the emergency access, hook to the hydrant, and then pull to the site without ever having to block the main access out of the park, for people who need to leave the site. In any case, his thought was, worst case is, there's a very short distance and very easy accessibility on foot to the emergency access road and out of the park, if ever catastrophically necessary. But he didn't anticipate that with sprinkling and hydrants and the like.
Yeah, go ahead.
Travis, you mentioned about the other emergency access about being built kind of like parallel to the existing one. Is it, I'm sure there's thought, why would you not connect on your plan vertically between the two for a very short?
Grade.
Yeah, it's a pretty steep grade.
Yeah, because that slope, if you remember during the site plan, that's a 1-to-1 reinforced slope. So there's only about 36 feet from this roadway down to that existing access, and about 20 to 25 feet of grade change.
What the fire chief wants to look at him with is kind of once we go to pre-construction, talk about what the kind of slope stabilization is, if there's an opportunity for some kind of stepped access, or just laying a connection up so they can just serve up from there.
Okay.
So.
Bob, did you have a comment?
No, I'm prepared to make a motion that we grant the waiver, in noting that, in all cases for me, and I think it's been for the board, once you go over 500 feet, if the fire and safety people are fine with it, then I'm fine with it. But I think it's good that we keep the $500 500-foot number, so we look at it closely. But I'm prepared to vote yes.
All right. Do you have any comments?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Want to make a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
All right.
With the extension of this road, 850 feet, I will be assigning new street numbers for both these parcels, so that you can expect that will change next year.
So the 85 won't be the 85, it'll be a different number?
That's correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that comment.
Any other comments from the public? The board? Okay. Call for vote?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
who was
sorry.
the second?
I was.
Wayne, thank you.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Okay, 4A, 5B, atypical cul-de-sac design. So it's not 176-foot circle with a 100-foot circular island. It is a teardrop cul-de-sac. The right-of-way ranges from 165 to 185 feet long and about 134 feet wide. The island is about 120 feet wide, long by 55 feet wide. So instead of pretty circle, it's a teardrop. And what I got from your reasoning you provided was it's designed for safe truck and traffic turning movements, is kind of what I got out of what you wrote.
So that cul-de-sac hasn't changed since the site plan review process. That's to accommodate trucks being able to turn and then back into the building.
All right. Any questions?
Make a motion to grant that waiver. I have to believe that you've run some turning radiuses on that, and it would work for the applicant.
Yeah.
All right, a second?
Second.
Second. Any questions from the public? Any other discussion here?
You guys have to plow it anyway, right?
Yes, they have to plow it.
All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Okay, 4A, 4B, vertical curves of less than 100 feet. There are two vertical curves, one is 30 feet, one is 76 feet. The reasoning was given that the K values, which we've talked about in the past, K values show you that when you're coming up over a humped vertical curve, you still have the appropriate visibility, and when you're going down through a sag vertical curve, you won't bottom out a vehicle. That those K values demonstrated that there is appropriate visibility and car clearance or vehicle clearance appropriate, and Graves Engineering did review those and approve those.
I'll make a motion that we approve that waiver. We grant that waiver.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions from the public? From the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
I had originally thought you needed a waiver from 4A6, but I'm actually gonna ask for the board's input on this. 4A6 talks about curb radius at an intersection of two streets. So I was looking at where this private road meets the public road. Of course, the private section is really just an extension of Gilmore Drive. So I don't know if you need to act on, it's up to you, whether you need to act on the curb radius. Basically, it just says the flare, the curb radius of the property line when you hit the road has to be a certain width, and the curb radius of the pavement when you hit the intersection has to be a certain radius. They have shown actually, I believe, a greater than required property line radius, but no radius on the pavement going in, because again, it's just a continuation of an existing roadway. So I don't even know, I had them requested, I don't see a reason not to grant it, but I don't even know if it's, you could consider it applicable in this very odd case. So either you think it's applicable, and
What is the radius on the plan? I can't see it from here.
So the radius is 40 on the property line, and there is no radius on the extension of Gilmore Drive. So typically, you would have that radius if you were tying into a new road. So you would have those flares, and then the pavement would also have a flare.
which allows you to kind of
Radius.
pull your car around,
Yep.
you know, into the radius and see. Here,
Where this is a straight shot.
you're just
Straight
going right
shot.
into it, so
Cul-
there's,
Cul-de-sac at the terminus of Gilmore Drive does not have an island in it, correct?
Does
Nope.
not.
Yeah, so you'd be driving through the center of it.
Yeah.
so yeah, so,
So it's not a roundabout like down in Millbury where you have to stay out of the middle of it.
nope.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if you consider it applicable.
Right.
If you consider it applicable, you need to vote it and statewide. If you don't think it's applicable, just state it's not applicable, we cross it out. Again, it's the curb radius at the intersection of two streets. It is a private street and a public street, but it's the same street. It just goes from public to private, public to private. I mean, it won't hurt to vote it.
Yeah, let's just
Right.
vote it.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we grant this waiver on 4.A.6.
And that's because you don't need to do this
Because
physically.
it's a straight
right?
line right
Okay.
through
Yep.
the
Second.
intersection.
All right, any comments from the public? Any other discussion on the board? All those in favor?
Who was-
Aye.
Aye.
I missed the
Opposed?
second again, I'm sorry. Who was the second? Bob? And that's a 5? Okay, 5F1. Pavement centered in the right-of-way. within the cul-de-sac, the pavement is not centered in the right-of-way, and I actually couldn't tell Travis if the pavement is perfectly centered in the right-of-way on the straightaway.
It is,
Okay.
on the straightaways.
Okay, so, again, the teardrop isn't perfectly centered in the, for the same reason we've already discussed about the geometry of the teardrop. First, they're working with some grades there on that east side, so you've kinda got a flat edge riding along the top of that, grade. And then the rest of it is designed just to accommodate safe turning and backing into loading docks on that site, as well as safe movement of trucks and vehicles through the cul-de-sac and potentially into this site and a future site off to the north.
Any questions, comments? Do a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Yes,
Second.
Second. Any comments from the public? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
This one's gonna sound funny, but you gotta do it. 5F3, they're providing thicker pavement than required. They're required to provide 3 inches, they're providing 3.5 inches. They just said they want thicker pavement for industrial/truck traffic. It's just better for maintenance. Put in thicker
Does our
pavement.
bylaw specify, or does it say a minimum of?
No, it specifies 1.5 inches,
I make that motion.
Good plan.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Okay, 5J4, planting strip and street trees. If you don't have a sidewalk, you don't have the planting strip between the road and the sidewalk, okay? And the street trees, they have less street trees due to grade and necessary site layout. The proposed trees do create a boulevard entrance, and otherwise, they do have additional landscaping that works with the site.
Yes, this is part of the same landscaping that you have seen for the site plan review process. That one-to-one slope is here, so there's no opportunity to extend those street trees down that location. So, as Jen mentioned, we put them at the entrance of that new proposed roadway.
And then they continue with plantings on the islands inside and
Yep.
along the edges.
So those plantings would be here.
All right. So a motion?
Motion to approve that waiver.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Any questions from the public? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Section 5K, side slopes are 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 instead of 3-to-1. Existing grades leave no choice. Less expensive and safer and in terms of, well, safety and long-term maintenance than a very big retaining wall.
Yeah, so again, that's that same area, 2-to-1 and 1-to-1 slopes, we provide that reinforced,
Right, and you did get a
Product
submittal
previously.
from the company about that specific material. That was reviewed by the various departments and the town's consulting engineer.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
And the last waiver request is 5M1, concrete instead of granite monuments. And that is consistent with the rest of the monuments in the park.
I make a motion for that waiver based on consistency throughout the park.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Okay. Now, that the waivers are all voted, the board needs to decide if they need any additional action to take, any other information to take action. If they do not, I have provided you with a list of minimum conditions and have 2 additional conditions I would recommend. So you can approve with no conditions, crazy. Approve with conditions, or disapprove, and if you disapprove, you need to state in detail your reasons therefore. Or you can continue if you think there's something missing.
Where are the conditions? I'm not seeing them.
They're on my memo, so let me grab them right here. Ew, what happened? Ooh, okay.
I think I can read.
Planning department
Conditions of
review.
approval are right here. So,
Is that them?
yep, up on the screen, yep. So, standard condition number 1, approval of all other local, state, and federal departments, boards, and commissions. Number 2, prior to plan endorsement, all waivers and conditions of approval shall be noted on the plan sheets to be recorded. 3, prior to plan endorsement, in accordance with Mass General Law, the applicant shall provide a covenant that states no lot shall be transferred until the construction of the roadway and any related site restoration is complete. 4, as soon as the subdivision plan is recorded, an electronic file of the plan shall be provided to the assessor's office in a form determined by them. 5, prior to commencement of construction, the applicant shall attend a pre-construction meeting with the planning department, applicable department representatives, and other bodies that have responsibilities relative to the site, as well as the site contractor and other personnel the applicant feels are appropriate. 6, prior to commencement of construction, the applicant engineer shall submit 3 full-size sets of endorsed recorded plans. So I just inserted the word recorded. 1 11 by 17 reduced set and 1 electronic copy in a PDF format to the Sutton Planning Office. Construction shall be limited Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, and Saturday 8 to noon, no local, state, or federal holidays. At the time of transfer of the first lot, in accordance with Mass General Law, the applicant shall provide a form of surety other than a covenant to secure any uncompleted items shown on the definitive subdivision plan at the town's cost of completing the items, plus contingency as estimated by the town's consulting engineer. 9, the applicant shall pay for the cost of surety estimating and inspection by the town's consulting engineer in accordance with the inspection schedule contained in subdivision regulations. 10, at the conclusion of roadway construction and prior to release of surety for the project, the applicant shall provide to the planning board an as-built plan and written certification from the applicant's project engineer that the site has been constructed in accordance with the approved plans. I would also add, prior to the endorsement of the definitive plan, lot area and frontage numbers on those plans shall be updated. Before or at the pre-construction meeting, the fire chief will be consulted for final hydrant placement, as well as trying to establish a mechanism to lay hose from the existing hydrants and the emergency access up to lots 9R and 10. Those are the minimum conditions I would recommend, in addition to any more you think are appropriate.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the previously read conditions.
Second.
Second. Any questions or comments from the public? All right, any further comments from the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
All right, we need a motion to close that hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Give it to Marion.
Opposed?
I already wrote it.
5-0.
Sorry.
Well done.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
We'll get it in writing, and all parties of interest who got the original notice will also get a full copy of that approval letter. There's a 20-day appeal period.
All right, how many people are here for the bylaws? 1. What I'd like to do, since it's past 8:15, is I'd like to push the bylaw discussion to hold that and do that after the repetitive petition. Okay with you?
You're past both the times?
Yep.
Okay, yep. can do that,
All right.
unless there's a protest.
Anybody? Okay.
Okay,
Just looking for the.
tabled to end of meeting. Okay, so who's got the hearing notice?
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
looking
repetitive
for it right
petition?
now. Do you have a paper copy of that? Can you read that for me?
This is for.
This is for the 8:15 public hearing on repetitive
Want me to
petition,
read it?
38 Horn
Is this
Road.
still on the screen?
Go ahead, it's up on the
Yeah.
screen, Jen.
In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 16, the planning board will hold a public hearing on the application of Onzime Picard, Sutton, Mass, to consider whether there are material changes in an application for a special permit at 38 Horn Drive. The warrant, that warrant, the planning board giving consent to allow the applicant to reappear before the zoning board of appeals for zoning relief. The hearing will be held in the third floor meeting room at the town hall on Monday, September 10th, 2018 at 8:15 p.m. A copy of the plan and application can be inspected in the office of the town clerk during normal office hours. John Anderson, Chairman, published August 23rd and 30th of 2018.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Gary Moyer. I'm an architect, and this is Ozzy, the homeowner.
Hello.
So we're looking at 38 Horn Drive. The existing structure is here, and we're proposing to put on a two-car garage with a bedroom above. It's a single-family dwelling, originally built as a cottage, seasonal dwelling, converted to a full-time residence in the 1980s. Ozzy and Glenn bought it in 2015. We went before the zoning board of appeals for a special permit to build within the 20-foot side setback here, and to build the footprint greater than 30% that's allowed. The special permit was denied. We revised our plan, and we're before you to now describe the changes to the plan.
Did you describe the basis of the where you got denied by the ZBA?
Yes, thank you. So the encroachment within the 20-foot setback, we had proposed roughly 10-foot side setback, whereas 20 is required. We exceeded the 30% increase of footprint, so it was roughly 73% increase. And they felt it looked too big from the lakeside. So to address those concerns, we've reduced the size of the addition. We've pulled it back so that it now conforms with the 20-foot side setback. We've reduced the size of the building. It's now 2 feet narrower in this direction. And we've decreased our area. Whereas it was roughly a 73% increase, it's now a roughly 59% increase in footprint. So the difference from the previous scheme, we were proposing an addition of 1,550 square feet, and the proposed addition in the revision is 1,278 square feet, about 17.5% less of an addition. The board also thought that the addition looked too big. So I drew a couple of things here that might be useful. This is the existing floor plan at quarter scale. This is the proposed addition. So we have 1 and 2 garage bays. The previous scheme is outlined in red. So you can see we reduced the width by 2 feet. This was the encroachment within the 20-foot setback, which we are now completely outside of. Also, the concern was that it looked too big from the water. So this is the proposed elevation with an overlay. The red line indicates the previous scheme. So we took away the basement. No basement in this scheme. There was a basement, and we were dropping grade about 3-4 feet here to accommodate additional headroom for exercise equipment in the basement. That's all been eliminated. No basement in this scheme.
No exercise, too bad.
And no storage. Slab on slab.
And the bedroom upstairs had a bump up here, kind of a bay window that bumped up. So we brought that down to match the eave line of the existing house. So in essence, we've reduced the entire height by over 7 feet.
So, now, it seems that we're just encroaching on the 30% of the existing footprint. We're under the 10% of the property overall, so we're nowhere, we're not close to that. And then the 20 feet off, so.
So the board's only job this evening is to provide consent for the applicant to return to the ZBA as long as they feel that there have been material changes made to this application. So you just need to, I did provide you the old plans, I've provided you the new plans, and you've just heard a summary of the changes that have been made. So all you need to determine is that those are some material changes and that they have consent to now proceed to refile with the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's required because you cannot return to the Zoning Board of Appeals within a period of 2 years unless you make material changes to the application. And you are the gatekeepers, the planning board is the gatekeeper to the zoning board in this process. So that's chat, take input, and then the motion, should you find, should be something to the effect of that you consent to the applicant returning to the zoning board with this application as it contains material changes.
How was the septic system addressed in this?
The septic system will be addressed as part of the addition project. So Andrews Engineering is on board.
Yeah, sorry, I ran the plans in front of the health department, and they said there's nothing that needs to be done with leach fields or anything like that. The system by the town's engineer is actually designed for a 4-bedroom, which we're not doing. We're getting rid of an office on the first floor, turning it into a pass-through room. That's what the offset's for, trying to catch the house. So actually, there's not much we have to do with that. You know, it's really just the footprint of the.
Well, that bedroom is being turned into a mudroom to be able to access into the addition, into the garage. And on the second floor, their current bedroom will be made an office, which is then open to the new bedroom. So there'll be no change in the number of bedrooms.
So there's just one septic tank that you gotta pop out and put up one you can drive over. But the rest of the system doesn't have to move anywhere for, so, I'm aware of.
Right. Wayne, do you have any questions
leach
about
fields.
that?
I don't. In my eyes, they've gone back, they've redesigned it, they've taken some of what I think is arguments from ZBA, corrected them, and I think you should have the right to go back.
Miriam?
It's too big. I'm getting caught up in that. Like the zoning board of appeals, that seems kind of subjective.
Right. Certainly, in the setback is an
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, the too big is definitely a subjective
Yeah.
judgment.
That would be my one comment. It looks fine. The elevations seem to me to be, considering what's being built all over town, it seemed reasonable to me.
It's a different house plan. I think you're at the threshold. And of late, I don't see anything small going up on the water.
Yeah.
It's been moving in the opposite direction. I've said before that they're all trophy homes now. There's no more camps left.
Yeah.
For better for worse, that's just.
Yeah, we tried to
Sure.
blend it in, and stay consistent. That's why we were doing the slab on slab, actually going down, that changed the grade a little, but not up.
All right, and I agree with the other board members, so I think there's material changes.
Yeah, I would agree.
Do you have a comment?
I just have a quick question. What's the, sort of space you have before the setback starts with that garage now? What's your comfort buffer?
It's roughly a foot or a little less.
Yeah, we have a funny shaped property.
Yeah.
So I have lots of
20.5
space down below.
feet is what Andrews put on their site plan, so half a foot
6 inches?
to the foundation.
All right, any other questions or concerns from the public? All right.
Make a motion due to the change in design and material changes that they've made in this, that they should have consent to go back to the ZBA.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Motion closed?
Motion closed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Have that decision in hand this week.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. We'll read that hearing notice or waive the reading of the detail after you read the front part. And I have some versions. Do you mind putting that into the keyboard? Yeah, there's some tweaks suggested by town council and a tweak or two suggested by your email to the board. So, come on now.
Date that you gave me has got a different page.
Okay, we gotta read the bylaw.
Right.
Do we have the?
It's
Right.
got later, what you gave me is later. than the one-
Right. Yeah, it's today's date.
Oof.
Yep. So that's the one that I just handed you should have today's date on it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So here's the-
Okay.
here's the public hearing notice. We have to read the public hearing. We have to open the public hearing, right?
Yep, gotta open the hearing, please. And you can just read the first paragraph and waive the reading of it.
All right, I'll do that. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, A, Section 5, the Sutton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on September 10, 2018, at 7:50 p.m. on the third floor of the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Massachusetts, for the purpose of considering proposed amendments to the town's zoning bylaws and or zoning map as follows.
Okay, so we're gonna waive reading of proposed bylaw changes 1 through 12, and we'll discuss each one individually in detail as we go through this meeting. Unless anybody has a protest and wants them to be read. Okay, hearing none. Okay, so, let's first take a look just quickly at that selectmen's article. We'll go to that one first. So which I did not hand to you, the selectmen's article is on the board. The selectmen have proposed to delete section VF, the solar photovoltaic overlay district in its entirety, and to amend section 3A4, table 1, table of use regulations by deleting footnote 1 and all reference thereto from the table. So, that is the Board of Selectmen's article, just to overturn the overlay district and to adjust the use table accordingly.
What's footnote 1?
Footnote 1 just says these uses are otherwise allowed within the solar overlay district. So right now, you can only have large systems in B2, O, Li, and I. And so that footnote says you can have them in R1, R2, and V, but only within the solar overlay district.
So that's something we added recently, right, in the last,
This was like
yeah,
less than
A year ago.
yeah.
Yeah, a year ago, right. So, so that's the first article. I don't know if you wanna do recommendations as we go, or if you wanna just kinda go over all of them on one subject, so maybe go over all the solar articles and then decide where you fall out. Or what do you wanna do? One at a time?
Yeah, let's go one at a time.
One at a time?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's the first article. As we've discussed at prior meetings, you have more solar articles. Most of those articles, if not all of them, could still remain in place. We would just change the motion a little bit, even if the solar overlay were overturned. They would just be protective should anybody ever put the solar overlay back in place or change the bylaws so that large ground mounting could otherwise be allowed in the residential districts. Okay? So this is the first article. So, on the hearing notice, it is number one.
Number one. All right, do we have a motion to recommend it, town meeting approve?
Or otherwise.
Or otherwise?
So you're either recommending the town meeting approve, recommending town meeting approve with adjustments, or recommending that town meeting not approve.
Do you have a question? Through
Yeah.
the chairman,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Saw his hand pop up.
Now, I have heard that the selectmen were proposing something like that. Was that given to the town clerk as in your advertisement, and why didn't it show up in either of the two sheets that you gave me?
It was given to the town clerk. I just made a mistake and didn't attach it, cause that's my document of my articles, but yes, it is on file with the town clerk.
So if this passes, what happens?
If that passes, there's no more solar photovoltaic overlay, so the area on Purgatory Road disappears, cause that was the original, overlay, so that goes away. And you can't have large ground mounted systems in the rural residential, in the suburban residential, or the village districts. Large ground mounted, so over 250 kW.
So it kills all the large in the residential areas?
It does, yes.
It's my understanding, though, the same way that this became part of the bylaw through citizens petition, that somebody could bring it back again, the same as the people that proposed the one on 146 in Purgatory Road. And although you delete what is our only overlay district right now, just because you delete it doesn't mean that somebody can't bring it forward again and, you know, have another overlay district somewhere else. Other places in our bylaw allow an overlay district on any.
Yeah, you can't outlaw overlay districts.
Right.
That's not legal. It's a valid zoning, methodology in the state of Massachusetts, so you can't outlaw them altogether. So this will overturn solar, and as you've stated correctly, next year somebody could come back and say, yeah, I wanna put it back, and here's where I wanna put it this time.
So this will just overturn the existing
The
overlay
existing one.
that is right off of 146.
Right, right.
Right.
So there'll be no more solar overlay, cause there's a parcel, and the solar overlay is one parcel, so it'll be gone. There'll be no such animal anymore. And thus, some of the protective bylaws that Clara has proposed, if it comes back, then you do have some additional protections if you wanna support those in the upcoming articles.
I'm not looking forward to going through the meeting we went through. However, there's a part of me that said it worked. And the public spoke. The system that was in place might not have been pretty, and for some people it wasn't at all, didn't come out the way that they wanted, but at the same time, the system did work. And the proposed projects were voted down. So part of me wants to say it isn't broke. Why we eliminate it? It did not work. It worked well. It's just a knee-jerk reaction, you know, as opposed to saying that for me, the system that was in place worked well. And the public was heard, and someone else is gonna come in and try to, you better have a whole new game plan because it wasn't close. Just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, it will continue, so if someone does bring it forward, that system will continue to go forward. But I think what this is doing is just eliminating the existing one that we have, so it's not eliminating the process or changes, it's just eliminating the one that's there.
Well, it eliminates solar overlay districts altogether.
Well, that are existing,
Yeah,
yeah, because you can't outlaw
No, no.
overlay.
Right.
so if town meeting approves that article at fall town meeting in the town of Sutton for the time being, there'll be no such section in the bylaw anymore, called solar overlay districts. It'll be gone, erased, and then it doesn't come back unless
Someone brings it
town
forward.
meeting approves.
Right.
So,
All right.
and the, limited input that or the, I shouldn't say the sense, but the direction from the selectmen was that those 3 denials, they took as kind of, a mandate of sorts, that people weren't ready for large systems in the residential areas, and thus they put forward this bylaw.
Okay. Nick?
It's no secret that I never particularly thought that a solar array was anything of beauty and that. But to do away with them, I'm wondering what the long-term effect will be to the town of Sutton to have absolutely no solar panels. I know there are other towns in the state that are that way, and I'm just wondering, is there any kind of indication, if we do this, are we gonna be affected down the road?
You mean no panels in the residential areas?
Right, no large solar panels.
Yeah,
I don't know, I'm just wondering if anybody's got an idea on that.
And I think that the technology is changing pretty rapidly, so what we know today, like what we're kind of putting bylaws together with for today is what we know of the existing technology, but the technology could change and drastically reduce the size of land required that may meet the specifications that we have for smaller scale, you know. Go ahead.
To think about future ideas, not saying that the town would be so keen on this, but I know other towns in the West Coast have required new construction to all have solar roofs, right, as part of their attempt to be greener, but a smaller way. So we just don't know
Right.
what direction it'll go in if things get cheaper.
Go ahead,
And
Mike.
that was Clara Kim, 2 Egan Ave, Worcester, future resident of Stone
Nine Stone
Road.
Circle.
So to Clara's point, I believe the town of Douglas, based on some information a friend has shared as they're building their house, their building code already requires the roof to support additional weight. Your point about technology changing is absolutely true. The panels that we have on a system currently today are no longer available. The replacements are almost 4%, 5% greater, and that's only in 4 years' time. To do away with solar in Sutton, to Nick's point, the 3 projects that were presented at the Springtown meeting in the next 20 years, the agreements that were put forth for taxes would have net in 25 years, I believe what the number was, approximately $2.1 million tax revenue to the town at absolutely zero cost in services. I personally think you shouldn't shut the door on an income like that.
So, but we will still have solar in the OLI, B2, and all those places. This is just eliminating the existing overlay that we have
In the residential.
in the residential area. But if someone chooses at some point in the future to bring a project forth and do an overlay within the residential area, that's still open. It just goes through the same process that we just went through that worked. So I don't feel that eliminating this particular district that we have, overlay that we have on 146 impacts the future of us being able to make decisions based on new technologies and possibly putting them into residential areas where it makes sense. But I would probably venture to guess at that time the size of land required will be much drastically lower, probably allowing people to feel like that it could be plausible to have it in a residential area. So I think, in my estimation, eliminating this current overlay district, where it was proven that this solar can't even be implemented because of wetlands. I just think it's just good housekeeping to clean that up, close it down, and then if something comes forth in the future, we can deal with that on a case-by-case basis, and we can go through the same process that just works. So that's kind of my overall feeling.
And I think that first one, when they first came in, and it was a huge area that went and came up behind homes and all that, which they ultimately pulled back. But it wasn't a good site from the get-go, and it became a worse site when they actually went and looked at it. So it was probably a bad example to hang this hat on.
Yeah.
So it seems reasonable to clean that out in my mind too. If it's gonna be engineered and put into a residential location on a large scale, it should be engineered appropriately.
Yeah. If I felt that this was closing down any future decisions or any future opportunities to do in a residential area, I would obviously voice that, but I do not feel that in any way this is going to restrict that. This is just housekeeping in this particular one project that was proposed and did not go forward. And as we get into the future and technology changes, we can make those decisions based on that. But it's hard to figure that out now because we don't know what that technology is going to be like. So that's my recommendation.
Motion, anybody?
Actually, there's two pieces to this, right?
Well, they go hand in hand. You should not do one without the other. So it's just that part 2 just reflects in the use table what you did in part 1.
So I'll make a motion that we support this article
Recommend town meeting approve.
and that to recommend that town meeting approve this warrant article.
We have a second? We have a second?
I'll second it to get the discussion going.
All right.
Okay, seconded?
All right, any other discussion? Clara?
Is there any, bylaw coming up to add anything into the solar overlay?
Nope.
Okay, cause that would be the only reason to be like, you shouldn't whisk the rug from under them.
Not at this town meeting, because the articles we're going through this process. So.
If there were, you'd see it tonight.
So to make it clear, this article would extinguish the existing overlay district,
Yeah, that
which is,
section of the bylaw.
which is only one parcel currently in
Right now.
town.
Yep.
And therefore,
Good point.
to clean it up,
Mhm.
I will vote to do that.
Mhm.
Earlier, there was some comments about getting solar completely out of town, and I'm not in favor of that.
No. We can't do that because it's as of right, so you can only reasonably regulate it.
Thank you for remembering to say that, John,
Yeah.
yes.
So in Massachusetts, it's as of right, and so in Sutton, we've chosen to reasonably regulate it by saying we can do it here, and it's limited here, but we could not outlaw it. That is not possible. All right, so we have any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, 5-0.
Aye. Okay, so we will support that article. And let's move on. do not know what's going on with my computer tonight, sorry. Mine never has issues.
Mine
Did
doesn't
you
like
need it
to
to be
read
listed
word docs.
instead?
I got it. Here we go. Okay, so Article A in the handout, which coincides with number 2 on the hearing notice, is to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning bylaws. Add the following at the end of section VIO33, the large-scale solar photovoltaic regulation. LGSPI within the R1, R2, and V districts, if otherwise permitted, shall also require a special permit from the planning board for use in accordance with the provisions of section VII-A2. So, even if the first article passes at town meeting, this is like a backstop, if somebody comes back in and says, I wanna put this, I wanna add this, reestablish the solar overlay on this parcel, that's fine, but they will also now have to get a special permit. So, large systems, again, this is part allowed reasonable regulation, large systems in residential areas, you can say those also need that additional permit. The only, and this one says from the planning board, so you're not extending the time frame. You're not making a 2-step hoop. So it's still a one board, one public hearing, but it is, allows you the additional permitting powers, and it can make your decisions more easily defensible if they're appealed.
Any questions or comments?
So these setbacks are only gonna apply to R1, R2, and V?
Article A doesn't have any setbacks. Article A is just requiring a special permit. Are you looking at the same here?
I'm reading too far down.
You're ahead.
He has it.
He has
You
it.
have it?
Yeah.
Okay. So all it does is add that additional permit.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
To recommend that town meeting approve?
Mm-hmm.
Just wanna make sure.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
Okay, Article B on the handout. It is the same as number 3 in the hearing ad. This is more housekeeping now. If that first article we voted passes at town meeting, I will have a backup motion for this article because number 1 will be gone. Footnote number 1 will be gone. And this footnote we're proposing to add in here will now become number 1, okay? Town council says it's simple, no big deal. So all Article B is putting in the use table what you just said in Article A. So installations within the residential districts, if otherwise permitted, shall also require a special permit. So anywhere you look where these permitting requirements are listed, you wanna make sure you've got it listed everywhere, so there's kinda no chink in your armor.
All right, any questions? All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second. Any, for discussion?
Jen, when you print this, can you put the different zoning districts at the top of the table?
Oh, yes,
So that you can
absolutely.
just,
I'm sorry.
you just read that? I know you just zipped it out of the zoning bylaw.
I
but
did. And
It makes it helpful
Mm.
people to understand which is.
it's kind of essential, thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you.
Good catch.
All right, anybody else?
Did
I'll-
we have a second on that?
Wayne.
Wait,
No,
no,
that was Scott.
Scott,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Scott, yeah.
Ooh, so you
I
got
did
to-
hear it from down that end.
I can't hear anything anymore.
All right, I'm gonna call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 5-0.
Okay. C on the handout. Number 4 on the hearing notice is, and now this little cross out is recommended by council. It just didn't read right before. So we're adding the following provision to the large-scale solar photovoltaic bylaw. Number F, when an installation is located in R1, R2, or V, the line of clearing, so where you're allowed to clear to, shall be set back from lot lines a minimum of 100 feet, so you're not touching anything for 100 feet, with the permitted structures set back 200 feet. The board may waive these setback restrictions for topographical reasons that would eliminate the need for full screening and distance buffer.
So this is for residential and village only, right?
Right, so if your parcel's in there.
So if we have an overlay that comes in,
Mhm.
gets approved at town meeting, this will then
you
be in
have fees
effect.
Increased unless the board finds, as we discussed at the preliminary meetings, if you got a hill between here and there, you really don't need 100 feet or 200 feet. You know, if there's a topographical reason why you don't need the 100 feet or the 200 feet, then so be it. But if there is, you have it there.
Would the board ever consider, to a previous application, being a lower number and an altered buffer? What was the project that came before us? They were gonna, Armsby Road, they were gonna,
Go down to 50 feet, but
Yeah,
25 was
and-
untouched and 50 was a significant
screening.
addition, screening. It's up to you guys. I think that end sentence probably gives you that flexibility. Well, though you'd have to show a topographical reason, wetlands or hill. You couldn't just carte blanche do it if it was flat. You'd have to have the reason.
Anybody else on the board? No? Go ahead.
Clara, two you gonna have, could you do it with a waiver in that process?
Honestly, I don't remember if this bylaw has a waiver. Can you just check the large
I don't believe it does.
VIO, section VIO, just see if it has a waiver provision? I don't think it does either, but just check.
I don't see that.
I didn't think there's a waiver provision.
So the sentence, the board may waive, doesn't apply because there's no
No, it
waiver
does.
provision.
It does into that specific thing. So, in that specific case, you may waive. It just doesn't give you widespread waiver of all the other provisions of the bylaw. And it's very specific that it's for topographical reasons.
Claire?
It reminds me of the discussion about common driveways that you guys were having before, about how if it's a topographic reason, then a common driveway makes sense, but not for whatever other reasons. So it's kind of like that that one exception you guys often come to.
Nick?
I think this is way over the hill, overkill on this thing. I just can't picture somebody giving up this tremendous amount of area all around a site for that. It seems to be unreasonable.
You wanna weigh in?
I think, well, I have to agree that it's all a reaction to something that happened at the last town meeting. It's not planning, it's reacting. And I hear that the selectmen heard, so it's, we're reacting, we're not planning.
I'd have to agree.
I'm definitely in agreement.
I'm listening.
You're listening.
You're listening. And John's listening.
Claire?
Clara Tuiganov. I would say I researched these, right? I didn't just make up something. I looked at about, 30 towns in Massachusetts and pulled, this is specifically coming from, looking at what other towns did, and there are way more drastic measures out there that I did not use as reference. I think it's very reasonable to talk about the numbers. Would it make sense if there were other numbers there? If it were 75 and 150, is there a number that makes sense? I think it's a reasonable conversation.
Yeah, but I would agree with that. I mean, I do feel that, I am concerned that kind of a setback of 200 feet, it's just not, it's gonna kill the project. It's gonna make it it's gonna make it much harder. And we don't wanna legislate in that way. I think it's kind of being reasonable. And so maybe it is a different number.
What's our setback from industrial, from residential, 100 feet?
To the
That's for a
primary
building
structure.
with lights on it. This is a solar panel array that's, 6 feet off the ground?
Yep.
It seems considerably more restrictive for something that doesn't deserve it.
Your largest area is the perimeter.
Is the perimeter.
You take a small number of feet, even the difference of 25 is a great area, depending on the total size, but it's a significant percentage of the area. I think with throwing numbers in there like this, I think you're setting a precedent for other things that may come in the future. The discussion about the technology changing and becoming more efficient, higher output for smaller areas. There's only a few places in town right now that could accommodate a system of any size. And if a developer was to come, and I said this before, that I believe the peak has passed. There's gonna be other technology, there's gonna be something else, or the grid is gonna max out. Because every time somebody puts some on their home, they add to what the grid can take. So in our project, there was research done how much power the grid could take in our locale. We just approved one for Oakhurst Road, and that takes out a certain amount. So there's not gonna be, in my eyes, there's not gonna be huge systems coming. They're gonna be smaller systems, 1.1 megawatts, 2 maybe, to fill that last remaining, and they're gonna max out. And when you add batteries, which is a technology change, they're gonna max out quicker. I just think, if you have a parcel in town that makes sense to put a number of in excess of 100 feet, which, as Scott said, is the difference between residential and OLI, is crazy. You're forcing people to put homes on property that they may not otherwise, and every home that gets built in town loses money on a tax basis.
All right, going anywhere on this, or do you want to table?
Do we have to finish all these tonight?
You?
Yep, then I'll make a motion that we do not recommend that this article be passed at town meeting.
Second.
Any other discussion? Claire?
It's not possible to come up with different numbers during this conversation.
Well, it is now.
Now it's
Now
on
it's on the table.
So you're proposing
they should propose something.
Yes, well, they've already heard.
I want to
Some
be clear
numbers.
too, make no mistake, I'm thrilled you did this. Thank God you did, because it forces us to have the conversation. In changing it doesn't mean, I just wanna make sure you know that my comments aren't, directed at you, it's good that we're doing this. It's a reaction. So, let's react like a planning board.
So does anybody want to propose a different number, or just that's reasonable?
So if we inserted new numbers in this,
You're within the scope of the article, so you're fine.
okay,
And the warrant isn't issued yet, so you can change it in the actual article, so there's not crazy confusion on town meeting floor.
What is it right now in the industrial districts? Or in the business?
Primary structure
Well,
has to be
this is-
set back from the line
So
item.
right now, the design standards for, large, not large thing, yeah, large
Oh,
scale.
the solar.
We have 3.7.1 setbacks and screening now. So the front is supposed to be at least 100 feet. The side, each side shall have a depth of at least 50 feet, and the rear shall be at least 50 feet. Every abutting property shall be visually screened from the LGSPI through any one or combination of the following, which I think you were alluding to: location, distance, plantings, existing vegetation, and fencing not to exceed 6 feet in height.
And then at the last town meeting, I believe that additional section E was tacked on with some additional requirements. Remember the guy that was on Carr Street proposed some additional language, and that also got approved, so it was some additional
screening,
not depth, not numbers, but just
Stuff.
stuff
which is
for residential.
your setbacks
Mhm.
already exceed an R1 setback.
Yeah, 50, 40, 20, 20. So you're going to 100, and the thing you have to remember is
Going
100 setback, so
50,
at 100
50.
feet, you can have a panel under that bylaw. Under this one, the panels have to wait till 200 feet, and you can't clear that 100 feet. So the 100 feet under that one, so it can be like we were discussing on Armsby Road, where it says 100, but he wanted to have 20 feet untouched and 25 of thick additional stuff, and then put the panels at 100 per that. So the panels wouldn't start till 100, but he wanted to be able to work within there and supplement, because he had white pine forest, I believe is what he said, exists there.
I don't remember.
So even if you left all 100 feet, you could probably see the panels under,
Right.
because there's no understory growth.
So with the thing that we just approved, seems like an hour ago, we require a special permit from the planning board. And I think the planning board would wanna consider in that deliberation, this section D, which talks about existing plants, new stuff, new whatever, for this visual. This is a visual thing, it's not a noise thing.
Not at all.
Doesn't make any noise. It's all about seeing it.
All right, so you have a motion to not recommend and a second on the floor. You've had some discussion. Do you wanna proceed with that motion, or do you wanna adjust these numbers? Or do you, which would
Or
require,
are we happy with the numbers?
What's that?
Or are we happy with the numbers that are here?
or the
right here
existing
in this-
numbers?
The existing
Yeah.
numbers.
This is in the article.
Where?
Just for the information, the reference was Carver, Mass. Uses the 100, 200. Blandford uses 500. You know,
They must have a lot of land up there.
I don't know. I think what's currently written is basically that they could clear at 50 feet and put the solar panels right at 50 feet, right? Is how it's the current rules.
Yeah, they could, but they couldn't functionally because of the shade.
Well, on the north side they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you're looking to do anything to make it tighter, then it would be like, what, 50 and 100, or,
That's
you
what
know.
the bylaw currently has.
100 front and 50 in the back.
Right.
But, yeah, but not, so what happened on the other one was that the 50 on the north side, you could clear it and put a panel right there, so that's what's currently allowed, right?
Well, you can clear, but you would have to improve, like, so you couldn't just clear cut it and put a panel.
Well, I think the clarification to me is every abutting property. So you have to screen from an abutting property. That's how I read this. If you don't abut anybody, you can clear 50 feet, but most of these abut somebody, I think,
Yeah.
unless I'm not reading this right.
Unless you're up against the highway.
There you go.
Isn't that in a butter?
It is, but nobody who's gonna show up in a meeting.
Mass Highway doesn't care. They're
They
all
don't
over the
care.
highway now.
But
No.
when-
They're gonna
when we
be
were
the future
doing-
blight of America. I mean, this is kind of.
But to that point, when we were
ridiculous,
doing when they were doing the solar on top of it, you know, at the National Grid site, we talked about view shed down to that site, so we took that into account.
Mhm.
So
You've seen it.
Call for a vote.
yeah,
Changing the numbers?
are we changing the numbers or leave them as is?
My motion was that we default to what's here in the book.
All right.
That's
Which
my-
is 150 feet and 50 feet, right? What's
It's
that?
150, 50, and then the additional language you read.
Right.
Well, the rear yard is that it shall be at least 50 feet. The side yard shall have a depth of at least 50 feet.
In the front is 100.
That's what it says. And the front is 100. But that screening has to be provided for every abutter.
All right, so it seems like the
Read that
board's got a
right?
pretty good consensus.
Yeah, I read it.
So I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in
Wait,
favor?
wait, before you do that.
Yep.
Am I missing D? Is this continuing on to page, on my pieces of paper here?
No,
Do I have these things out of range or something?
You don't have a page or two in here, so you
Do I have the wrong thing?
is it on the flip side? There's
No.
two start.
We don't have this.
we're missing the D page.
No, I don't.
See, that's the
We're
next
doing
page.
the first with the
Yeah, it's the next
We don't
page.
have it.
No,
Oh,
that's,
man.
that's Article D, not section.
No, on the handouts from tonight.
Yeah, I have a D, a small D on the top of the page.
Yeah.
It's a different article.
It's a
You're
different
missing a whole page.
We're missing.
Oh, I'm missing a whole page.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought I was
Apparently, I
trying.
don't know how to use a copy machine. I don't even know how that would happen. One, cause I put 4 pages in, I got 3
Okay.
pages out.
So what I read- what
two
we-
must have stuck to page 1. Page 1 and 2 must have stuck together. But you do have on your computer
Oh,
the
boy.
correct version.
Let's go to the computer.
Yes.
I have a point of
I
clarification.
can't open those
Oh, whoops.
Word
Go ahead,
files.
go ahead,
Yes.
Clara.
Hi, I have a
Hi.
point of clarification. So if you guys, don't recommend this,
Mhm.
and it goes forward as a 100, 200, it could still get approved,
Mhm.
thus putting in 100, 200. Would it be better for you guys to change it now to 50, 100, for example? Cause you guys currently have the power to, and that would be what would go in front.
So the
And
only,
you could still not recommend?
so the difference, the only difference, she's saying 5100, it's the line of clearing as opposed to where you can put the panel.
Right.
So that's how it would change. So it's the same number you see in there, but it's line of clearing instead of where you can put the panel. So then the panels would then push to wherever they need to be in terms of shading. Like Clara said, on the south side, you're gonna need height of tree times at least 1.5, if not double. But on this north, you need little or nothing, and on the sides, something.
So in a case like Amsby Road, you're gonna force 100 feet of tall, no understory growth
No, it's 50
to,
feet.
to stay there.
No,
If you changed it, it would be a 50-foot unclear, or, 50 foot until you can clear, 100 feet until panel
oh, okay,
is what this is
okay,
talking
I
about.
got you, yep.
And right now, I think what the
Mhm.
IOLI is 100 feet from the side to put the panel in.
Primary structure, yeah.
And so that is actually
Yep,
more
she's right.
restrictive than what currently exists, which is 50 feet.
So the lot lines, yeah. So the clearing for installation of panels shall be 50, so you have to leave 50 feet untouched, and then the panel can go at 100.
So is it 100 from, like, is it 150, or is it just
No,
100?
it's 100 from the lot line.
Like,
If you
so,
guys change
yeah,
it.
50 is included in the 100.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah, that's much more reasonable. Mhm.
So I'll go down, are you okay with that change?
We're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and in the 50, to your point, if it was white pines, the board has what they need in the language to say, okay, somewhere between the 50 and where you're gonna put the panels, you gotta add something. But if you're adding understory, chances are it's not gonna push the panels anymore, because if you're just adding understory that goes to 10 or 15 feet, it's not gonna create, you know, that 50 feet of shade.
What about you, Miriam?
Hmm?
How about you?
Yeah, I have a hard time restricting anything that's gonna bring some revenue into town, but at the same time, I'm sympathetic to the people who live in town. I can go with this, I guess.
Maureen?
Doesn't make sense to me, realistically, to leave trees that are 70, 80 feet tall and require those to stay and plant additional if you are allowed to clear it, a portion of it, and put lower understory. I'm trying to look at it realistically. The line of sight from an abutter can be interrupted extremely easy to a height of 10 feet with very little depth. The planning board has that already in there, that they're gonna screen to every abutter. That screening has the right to be reviewed, just like earlier on, about the bushes growing around the sign. We have the right to review landscaping. I think the existing bylaw is fit to take care of that.
Scott?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I just think we're splitting hairs at this point, and I'm not really seeing, I just think we move forward the vote and see where it falls.
So Jen, for clarification, what's the motion on the floor?
To not recommend that, to recommend that town meeting not approve this article, that's by Scott, second by Wayne, yep.
But it still goes.
This may be one
Yeah,
of those times
it
on
can't-
town floor that the planning board doesn't, it doesn't happen. Right?
Mm.
This could be a huge hour-long discussion.
Yeah.
Now,
So
you're
there's
the
the process,
sponsor
that's the
of the
process,
article.
Small town, that's the
So
process.
you have to, you're not recommending an article that you sponsor, which is kind of weird. But the sponsorship is about letting town meeting have a discussion
Have
and
the
a
vote.
say.
Yeah.
You don't have to recommend everything you sponsor.
So
But
we
that'll
own-
be the first thing you get to explain, I'm sure, is, what do you mean? Why are you not recommending?
Because the planning board took it on as a planning issue, so
Right.
we're doing our job as opposed to letting petition,
Mhm.
let it get there by petition article.
All right,
Makes sense.
so I'm gonna
Okay.
call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Your motion is to
Not
not recommend.
So that's an aye and an aye.
And an
Yeah,
aye.
And an aye.
And an aye.
5-0.
Oh, it's a five?
Yeah,
To not recommend.
yeah,
All right,
but it
so
still goes, so.
it still goes. Okay, Art
But not amended, because you guys don't wanna amend it now.
nope,
Can't.
goes as.
It's your risk.
All right, D, which is the same as number 5 on the hearing notice, requires sightline representations. This just puts in writing what I requested applicants do during the last meeting. It's very hard to kind of think about what you're gonna see without getting kind of a cross-section of, here's where the panel sits, here's where the nearest house is, or the lake is, or this thing is, what's in between? If there's a mountain in between, a sightline representation will show you. If there's a row of white pines with no understory, a sightline representation will show you. So this just puts in writing what I actually have already asked applicants to provide, and there's just, in my opinion, zero negative to this article.
We saw somebody do this recently, right? They came up with
Yeah,
different-
Wayne's presentation filed one, the other two chose not to file photographs, not sightline representations. We did sightline representation for Prime Metals.
Yeah, Prime
We
Metals,
did,
that's right.
you
Armsby
know,
Road
it's
did as
just
well.
a huge tool.
Armsby Road just did.
Yep,
Yeah.
Armsby Road, actually, I did ask them just for the preliminary to show them, just 'cause it's invaluable. You need to understand what's between point A and point B.
I make a motion, we recommend this on town floor.
Second.
Any discussion?
The number
Yes.
3, from any local, state, federally designated historic district or public recreation area within 2,000 feet
Keep reading.
of the solar installation, if determined visibly by the planning board,
Right,
showing the clearest view of the, 2,000 feet's a long ways.
yeah. But the deal is, we have several sites where you have a site that's, down gradient of a site or up gradient of a site, and you can get a pretty good view shed. I'm
How far-
less
how-
worried
How
about
far away
these.
can you see the cell phone tower? Everyone was in favor of that.
Yes. So, because their phones don't work. That's why
Hey, you
they're
like
in
that
favor
gonna
of it.
work.
Now we're opposed.
Yeah, I mean, I would be worried about 3 if
They
it
can't
it wasn't
stand up.
completely controlled by the planning board. Basically, you're gonna draw a circle and go, okay, this is here, that's at 400 feet, this is at the, no, you don't need to review that, blah, blah, blah. And what's great now is with Google Pro, you can actually do these site estimations and
Oh,
see
yeah.
whether there's even a potential risk that needs to be evaluated. I actually did that myself, on one of the installations that went in and assuaged my own fears.
I think the reality is that the technology can do this relatively simply.
Yeah,
Uh,
it can. And again, you don't do number 3 unless the planning board takes a look at that 2,000 circle and goes, you know what? We wanna make sure this historic area isn't impacted, or this rec area isn't impacted, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, Nick, you had a question?
Again, I think this is overkill, and I would really like to know how you're gonna be able to tell what the sight line is from the back of somebody's house when they don't allow you to get on the property. I just don't think that that's gonna buy it. And then, you're talking about the sight line should be depicted in profile. This, at a scale of 1 inch equals 40 feet, that could be a huge profile, and I don't know how you could get all the trees and all the grades and stuff like that. I know that
I mean,
electronic imagination
Mhm.
is pretty good, but I really don't know that. And lastly, the last line there, the sightline profiles and photographs should take into account seasonal variation in visibility. Okay, how do you do that? And then what are you gonna do when you get that? You have those in your hand. It doesn't tell you, you know, can you see it, can you can't see it? I mean, in the end, you're gonna have to decide, is it visible, is this objectionable or something?
Mm.
I just think that the end result here is gonna be a huge problem for you people.
yeah, I mean, the 1 inch
Right.
equals 40
That's what it's
feet
used for.
could be scratched, because you don't need 1 inch equals 40 feet, but you need to, like we've had on past site distance, you need to know, and it's relatively easy to determine the elevation of where the panel sits, and it's 10 feet tall. The elevation of this, where this house sits, and I always have them go to the second floor window, because you might not see it from your yard, but when you're, 15 to 18 feet up in the air, you might see it. You have those elevation points, and then you can look at aerials, topo, all different kinds of available information to see what kind of cover is between here and there, and what the topography of the land is between there and here and there. You have USGS, you have all kinds of resources, and it's been really effective on any number of filings.
Clara?
Just for reference, I think the profile you did was around 1,800, 1,900 feet, so that's where the approximately 2,000 kind of comes in.
You started it.
It's your fault.
My fault. Sorry. I think we did that because of concern of one of the abutters.
I didn't get the second on that, by the way. Scott was the motion to recommend. I didn't get who the
Can't be
second was.
talking.
Who was the second? Come on.
It wasn't a second.
Wasn't a second yet.
This is a sightline representation. Damn you guys. You're killing my
No
procedure.
second.
Wasn't there? No?
I thought there was.
No? Who wants to someone want to make one?
I'll second it, only for discussion purposes.
That's good, because we're already discussing. All right, anything else to talk about on sightline representation? Like I said, I think you can kill the actual scale. We can adjust that wording, so, you can adjust that wording or just kill that scale. I mean, a duck is a duck. When somebody gives you a sightline representation, you'll know if it's an adequate scale to show what you need to see.
You comfortable with that, Scott?
Sure. I mean, you may not be able to get onto somebody's property, Nick, but Google can. Obviously,
No,
it's
you can't.
disappearing quickly. No,
You
Google,
cannot do that.
Google's doing a good job of getting into your backyard,
Right,
unfortunately.
They get close, but if you notice, if you look at Google Maps, and you look closely at the images of the trees, those are all false images. They're like
They're blurry.
plates of paper
Yeah,
on top of it. It's
Yeah.
not
not real
a
images.
truthful thing.
And to the next point, about the photography that has to be taken, you may or may not get permission to go on that property.
Yeah.
And
Sightline profiles and photographs, I mean, you can kill that last sentence too, because you should have to provide photographs, as was done from Carr Street. You should have to provide photographs, any photographs you can get.
so let's take the project that I proposed. Where are you gonna take the photographs from?
You'd stand down at the road and you take a photograph of. Or
Of
you'd
what?
stand at your
Of what?
panel location and you take a photograph towards your butters. So you'd see what the current view shed is. You'd get an
So
idea,
the
I'm
way-
staring into the side of a hill, I'm
So the-
staring into a,
So the way ours was proposed, if you walk into the woods with a camera,
Mhm.
you're gonna see from here maybe to Clara,
mhm,
and that's it. But we're gonna clear those trees,
right.
okay?
Mhm.
So how is that photograph of any help?
Well, it was on Carr Street though. Remember, it was on Carr Street to be
Our
able to
planning
see
board
what
plans for
Mhm.
the whole town, not for a specific site.
Well, yeah, but I'm not talking about it. It was helpful on Carr Street in not just a unique way with Carr Street. If you're in a butter and you wanna show people this, I'm worried about what I'm gonna see. I guess you could say, I'm worried about what I'm gonna see, but you can't come take a picture from my backyard. I mean, you could do that, and then you can cross your concern off the list, because if you're so concerned that you're not gonna let me stand on your porch to take a picture towards where your stuff's gonna go, then, but, I mean, that's very useful if you present photographs from the people that are concerned from their second floor window or whatever, looking towards you. You look at the plan, you look at what you know is out there for cover, or representations of what's out there for cover. It provides a valuable resource, in my opinion. I'm not the board, but I think you can cross out, I mean, on the photograph, you don't wanna have people superimpose on a photograph fall conditions. Board members aren't dumb. They know in the winter, if they're deciduous trees, you're going to see more, you know, and
No.
if they're
No,
coniferous
but-
trees, you're
but I
going to
can't
see less. So
access
I don't
that
think you need to superimpose trees
anyways.
on a photograph. And sightline
So I don't
profiles,
have
you
that
don't either. In
piece
fact, on
back.
a sightline profile, you want to see whether they're white pines or, you know, coniferous trees or deciduous trees. And you did see that on yours and on
This
one other
works,
thing, you
yeah.
saw the
No,
difference in the
no
tree types.
connection.
Cause the deciduous were shown like this and the coniferous were shown like pines.
So I'm trying to understand, because I'm sitting here thinking about this. What is the major concern with this article for people? Because I do think it's good to have the information of photographs, just like we did with this current project that came to us recently
Yes.
on,
Gilmore Drive.
No, not Gilmore Drive,
Old Prime Metals, or you're talking Armsby Road?
Armsby Road.
Yeah, for the
That was very
potential solar
helpful.
project, yeah.
So, is that what this is recommending, or is is it overreaching further than that?
I think it's the wording's a little complicated. I do. I
So
think
can we make
clean it
this
up.
simpler? Because I do think that that's something we should have. That's information we should have as to what, you know, the photographs.
And it shouldn't be optional.
Right.
So if you're gonna change the wording, are we gonna pass over it and bring it up at another hearing, or are we gonna vote on the way it's written?
Well, again, the warrant's not written, so if you wanna pull it apart a little bit and give me some direction, I'll clean it up and provide whatever to the selectmen, go to discussion, the finance committee, go to hearing, I think it's next week.
I think it's just it should state that photographs and sightlines should be represented. I mean, something is just really
Just
simple.
simple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever, I
The
mean,
applicant shall provide sightline representation.
'cause this is just creating confusion and adding complexity that I don't think it needs, and I think that that's vital information for us to make a decision.
So, it's just, where do you want them to provide sightlines from abutters,
Mm-hmm.
or from public roadways, or from,
Yeah.
or as directed by the planning board?
Yeah.
There you go.
Sightlines as directed by the planning board?
Yeah.
Okay. And, so, and photographs as directed by the planning board?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's easy, I can
Yeah.
do that.
So if an applicant comes in and the planning board says, based on elevations and stuff, we're all set,
Mhm.
they're not gonna be required to do a sight line or anything. Or they
Right.
come in and they say, hey, we'd like to see a sight line, or we'd like to see photographs.
Mhm.
We've been doing that, and we haven't, I don't think we've had an applicant say no to it.
But they
Right.
could.
Mm.
I don't think it hurts to have it in here. I just want to make sure it's clear.
They could,
And
it'd be
it's-
dumb to say no, but they could.
Yeah.
It would be
And,
real
and
dumb.
say we made a decision, and it's not a requirement in our bylaw, then we've gotta change our bylaw.
I'd rather amend it rather than sending it with the disapproval to the board, because that just seems, you know, like, obviously we're trying to have a open dialogue, but I don't want to, if we can amend it so that it works for us and not send it, you know, without our recommendation, I'd prefer not to do that again.
Yeah, we can do very simple wording,
Yeah.
that the applicant shall submit sightline representations and photographs as recommended, as requested by the planning board.
All right. So what do we do here? I mean, so he's got a motion on the floor. Do we have to amend
So you
that?
have to decide if you're okay with amending that motion so the language goes that simple, and you're okay with seconding that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I'll make that amendment to the motion.
I'll call for a vote on the amended
All
version.
right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
All right, so we're simplifying the crap out of that and
That was just
recommending
for the
that town.
amendment?
What's that?
What was
No,
that
no,
for?
I just,
As
I was just
amended,
asking you for permission to amend your motion to simplify. That's, well, this isn't town meeting floor, we're not gonna go nutty. Okay, so there's D simplified. E. E is painful.
Oh.
Thank
So
God.
Nick's
So these
been-
the other ones haven't
You
been?
have, Nick's commentary on lot width,
Save the best for
and
last.
again, we're trying to go simplify.
So this is lot width. So we're out of solar now.
So, in the least, I made these changes based on Nick's comments. I didn't make all of the changes recommended by Nick because, boy, I've just been too complacent. But no, that's not why. 'Cause I do see a value, in having a minimum lot width, but if the board does not, then that's fine. So the lot width, the minimum lot width shall be equal to the required lot frontage. So if you got 250, your lot width has to be 250, which is what the table of use says right now. They're this one and the same. The minimum lot width shall be measured between the side lot lines within the lot along a line parallel to the frontage and connecting the points at the intersection of the side lot lines and the required front yard setback. So your lot line is this, or this is your lot, this is your frontage, 50 feet, 50 feet, line parallel at 50 feet, there's your width. If your lot is round, your lot width line is round. If your lot line goes, frontage goes like that, your lot width line goes like that. Okay, so it's just much more simple. Nikki told me to kill that next thing, so I killed it, because it just complicated it. The minimum lot width shall be shown, I said on all applicable plans. He recommended I state which plans, so subdivision and Form A plans. At no point, he recommended I kill the last thing. I left it in just because I don't think lots should be narrower than 50 feet at any point, but that's up to you. I mean, if they come to a point in the rear, who cares? But but if you have lots that are necking down to less 50 feet or less, I think that's a problem. But that's just me.
Nick, what was your logic?
The question I always ask Jen when we get to arguing about this is, what are you trying to do with a lot width? What are you trying to prevent, or what are you trying to accomplish with it? Obviously, is make it so that it restricts the amount of houses that you can get along the street. You want it as simple as you can. The only thing that I've seen in the modified thing here is, what about corner lot?
What do you mean?
Do you run your 50 feet from one, as it goes around a corner? Do you include the whole length of the line around? Your frontage is only allowed to accumulate on one street.
And there's another,
But this doesn't say that, so you could use,
that's elsewhere in the bylaw.
you could use it all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, frontage, it says elsewhere in the bylaw that you can only use it along one street. But, yeah, lot width, we didn't specify that here.
I don't know quite how that would affect. I gotta think of examples of ugly looking lots that I've created in the past.
Yeah, and that's the
And
problem.
And I have done that. You get pressure from a client, I wanna get another lot in here, and I've spent virtually a whole day trying to squeeze another lot into it. I would not wanna own any of the 3 lots that were affected when I was done, because it was absolutely terrible. I like nice square lots.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you let the lot width drop to less than 50 feet, it kind of encourages that weird.
Wasn't this like what happened off
Walsh Road.
Walsh Road?
Red crust lots. Yep. I'm sorry, I've got a tickle. I gotta grab a cough drop.
So I guess frontage, Nick, 250 frontage along a road is not, it's a driver for lot spacing and lot creation along a road. But I guess there's situations where you could have some very strange, you come off 250 and all of a sudden you've got strange looking lots. But you can't have more lots down that road except for every 250 feet.
And that's not true,
Okay.
because you got on either side of every 250-foot lot, you got a
Do a
retreat
retreat
lot.
You
lot.
gotta have a retreat lot, right?
And then, what happens if the road's not straight,
It's not straight, yeah.
and it's got curves on it, and that's, or you end up at an intersection.
All the streets in Sutton straight?
Clara.
So my question is, does this mean if you have kind of a trapezoid-shaped lot where there's like a little tiny back line and then the other two kind of like come out at angles, that can't be less than 50 feet, that tiny little back line?
That's the way it's written right
Right.
now.
That's right.
Well, no, within the rear setback, it can go less than 50. So
Which is-
40 feet off those.
The last
back
40
line.
feet could become that
20.
triangle. I
No
think
cough
this reads
drops.
great. I make a motion, we support this article on town floor.
All right, do we have a second?
You're just getting tired.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion?
I would say, based on what we've been dealing with for the last how many years, this is probably an improvement to that,
What?
right?
It specifies exactly where you measure it.
There you go.
And how do you measure it?
And it can't accumulate on 2 different roads, that's already in the bylaw.
Yes, you can.
The frontage.
The frontage can't accumulate.
The frontage can't accumulate on more than 2, it can only accumulate on one road,
Wait.
right?
Well, we can add that in.
I thought you said it was already in.
No, the frontage is.
Frontage, yeah, your frontage is on one
Yeah, but the
road,
lot width can't accumulate on 2 roads.
on 2 roads.
So that creates a problem, because where do you draw the dividing line between one street and the other? 50 feet back.
Well, we usually
I'd-
measure
I'd
to the
live
center
with
of
it-
the radius.
I'd live with it, on the,
Just leave it.
Actually, it says, on a corner lot, all lines abutting streets shall be considered lot lines.
Front lot lines.
That's what we're talking about, or 250, right, or 250.
But you have to pick one for your legal frontage. That has to be 250. So there's no rear lot line, there's 2 fronts and 2 sides.
Yeah, the lines on only one street shall be used for the minimum lot frontage requirements. So we're good, okay.
So leave it the way it is and apply it the way we think it should be applied, and if somebody wants to be dumb and argue it, then they get disapproved.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Sound very planner like our
It's on record.
Okay, Article F.
Oh, man, how many of these are
This
there?
is
Oh,
the
my God.
housekeeping. This is, to comply with Mass General Law 40A, Section 6. So Article E is the same as number 6 in the hearing number 7 in the hearing definition. Mass General Law has been amended that if you get a special permit, you gotta start construction within 12 months. Or you have to, or the board you can be made to comply with subsequent bylaw changes. So this is just housekeeping.
Motion to support.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Nick?
should the word zoning be put before the word bylaw in the
Subsequent
first
amendment.
sentence?
It could be, sure, it doesn't hurt.
All right, let's make it happen.
Zoning bylaw. And I'll actually take out the hyphenation, cause that's not usually how we write bylaw either. I just left the wording the way it was.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
With the amendment.
Yeah, with the amendment, yep.
Mhm. 5.
Yep.
Okay, Article G, which is the same as number 8. This is recommended by, I shouldn't say recommended by council. We've had issues with our existing definition of street, which council says is just ridiculously not legal. So we're just replacing it with the Mass General Law definition of street, which is a way of providing legally sufficient frontage for division of land under the requirements of 4181L.
All right, do I have a motion?
Again, more housekeeping.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Nick?
Wait a minute, motion, I'm sorry, I
Marion?
missed the motion and the second.
Second.
Miriam and Wayne, go ahead.
I looked up 4181L, it's definitions,
It is,
and it doesn't say anything about street in there.
it does. It says a street has to be one of 3 things. It has to be shown on a subdivision plan. It's the definition of subdivision. Look under the definition of subdivision. And it defines streets, and it has to be one of 3 kinds. See 'em?
I'm gonna read what it says for subdivision.
Yeah, go for it.
Subdivision shall mean the division of a tract of land into 2 or more lots, and shall include re-subdivision, and, when appropriate to the context, shall relate to the process of subdivision or land or territory subdivided. Provided, however, that the division of the tract of land into 2 or more lots shall not be deemed to constitute a subdivision within the meaning of the subdivision control law, if at the time when it was made, every lot within the tract so divided has frontage on a public way, or a way which the clerk of the town, city or town certifies is maintained and used as a public way, or a way shown on a plan thereto approved and endorsed in accordance with the subdivision control law.
So that's number 2.
Or C, a way in existence when the subdivision control law became effective in the city or town in which the land lies, and then it
Right.
goes on.
So street has to meet one of those 3 things. It has to be a public way or a way that the town clerk certifies is used as public. It has to be shown on a plan, or it has to be, had to have been in existence when subdivision control came into effect. So that's how you define, the best way to define street. And way better than our current definition, which is woefully horrific.
The word street does not appear there. It says a way or a public way. Am I nitpicking here?
Well, a street is a way providing legally sufficient frontage. So the new definition said a street is a way providing legally sufficient frontage under the requirements. I mean, we can be more specific and say of chapter 4181L as described in the definition of subdivision. You know, we can just be a little bit more specific.
I think what he's saying, that the word street doesn't appear in, we're
No, it
defining
doesn't.
something that
The
doesn't
word
appear
way
anywhere.
does. The word way
It's actually
appears.
access, it's really access.
What he's saying, what he just read, used the word way again and again and again. And our definition of street is saying a way, it's a way. A street is a way as described in that section, which uses a way is this, or this, or 3. But if
Was
you want
this
me-
recommended by council? Is it how it came up?
It was recommended, we had an issue with the building commissioner and several things with the definition of street. So I talked to council about it and they said, yeah, your definition of street is horrific. And I said, what do you recommend? And he said, I recommend you tie it to this section, that you define it
Have they
per
reviewed this
section.
language?
They have it, and yeah, we did go over that, and he didn't have any big problems, but he didn't give me his written opinion yet. But we went through, the only thing he kind of nitpicked on a little bit is coming up in common driveways. So he didn't have a big problem with this, but we can be more specific, or I'm happy to look at it, but I mean, I think the intent is define street as one of those 3 things, as cited in this section. It's this,
So
it's this, or it's this.
we need to say that a street is a way.
It says that, street, a way providing,
Blah, blah, blah.
A street is
Okay.
a way, so there's no confusion.
you convinced me.
All right.
Yeah. But again, I can be more specific at the end there and
Very
say,
good.
per the definition of
That'd be
subdivision,
great.
blah,
That'd
blah,
be
blah.
great. Who made the motion?
Yeah, I was gonna,
Well, Miriam.
I did.
yeah, you okay with
You
that?
like
It was so long ago.
You like,
You live on a street, you live on a way.
I live on a
You
way.
wanna
Be
be
able
more
to find home.
specific and say per what
Get lost
definition in that section?
Right,
I'm sorry.
You wanna be more specific and say per what definition in the section that we cited?
yes.
It doesn't matter to me, really.
Fine.
But it doesn't hurt. I don't think there's any harm to it.
makes it more clear.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Less muddy.
Okay, so there's an amended,
Nobody
Who was the second on that one?
I was.
Wayne
You
was.
comfortable with that?
Less muddy.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh.
Opposed?
Okay, H, and I are easy, yay. H and I are 9 and 10 on the hearing notice, and the building department requested them. They do not want specific fees listed in the bylaw, because then it's a
Fixed.
problem.
Yeah,
I was gonna
makes
say something
sense.
else, a problem to change them.
Yeah.
H and I.
I make a motion, I make a
Both of them?
motion, we support Article H,
Okay,
well, I don't know what you wanna call it,
Second.
whatever it is.
H and I.
No, both,
They're
H and
doing
I.
the same thing.
H and I.
Second and second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-0.
Okay, so as Nikki pointed out, our bylaw was silent on the issue of width. So I added in width and then I went for something bigger than 100 feet. Because you don't want to go equal really, you're coming off a cul-de-sac and you don't want to go in, so you want to go out. So I went out and then I started drawing lots on cul-de-sacs and seeing at 50 feet, you can't really go from 100 to 150 unless the lot kind of goes like this.
Mm.
So I just was playing with numbers and 125, you know, 25% increase at 50 feet back seemed to work. So I'm just trying to address Nikki's valuable comment on that we were silent on this.
I make a motion that we support Article J as written.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Wayne's a second. Any other discussion?
Can I ask one little question?
Go for it.
Before the meeting, Jen took out the copy of the plans for Gilmore Drive, and then at the end of the cul-de-sac and showed me where the lot and things, so, I didn't have a problem with it. I don't think the line that they showed is the lot width was correctly drawn. Beside the point, I think they both conform to zoning.
Mm-hmm.
But the question in my mind was, what do you consider is a cul-de-sac? Because as you remember Gilmore Drive, you're looking at it from 146, there's a straight line and then it curves, I'm looking at it from your direction. You come up Gilmore Drive and then you make the 60-foot or whatever it is radius.
Mhm.
It comes around, then there's a 30 or 50-foot radius, and then it's straight again. The NEDT is totally on those two curves. So I would say that both of those curves make up the cul-de-sac. But in the subdivision, the second lot, that's the closest to Mendon Road, comes around and it's only partially on the round part of the cul-de-sac, and then it's on the straight.
Actually, both lots are. 9A and 10 are partially on the bulb and then on the straightaway. Now, the required frontage, I think,
Yeah,
then is if the 100 feet is completely on the bulb, but see what it says? The lot is completely situated on the cul-de-sac.
So what do you consider?
So if
What
the
would you
100
consider the cul-de-sac?
I honestly, I, like you, I think I look to the bulb and then where you get that radius that then transitions into the straightaway, kind of halfway through that radius is where I think the cul-de-sac starts. Halfway through the radius of the bulb and up around the bulb is the cul-de-sac. I think this is restrictive. I think if you're trying to allow more, because I don't know, I wasn't here when this was put in, I don't recall. I don't think I was. But if what you're trying to do is maybe allow some more lots in industrial areas or commercial areas on cul-de-sacs, if that's what you're trying to do with this, and I don't know what other reason you would have here, then you would say the 100 feet, the required lot frontage has to be completely on the cul-de-sac. And then if you want, you can define that, or you can just, the board will interpret it at that time. But yeah, Nikki's right, there's no definition of what is the cul-de-sac. When I look at one, it goes from right where that straightaway goes to the radius and then around the bulb. And this makes it really hard. So I think you would do well by having when the required lot frontage is completely situated on a cul-de-sac. or you,
Where are we?
you're almost done,
Yeah.
but your last, you
So
got
do we have a second? So-
Yeah, there was,
Best one.
it was Bob, it was Wayne, and then it was Nikki's question.
Yeah, that's right.
So what is a cul-de-sac?
Yeah.
You know, I just told you what I think a cul-de-sac is.
I would tend to agree.
And so does the whole lot have to be on the cul-de-sac? The whole lot?
Sure.
Or only the required lot frontage? So like on 9A and 10, they have the required lot frontage on the bulb, the 100 feet on the bulb, but are they penalized for having lot frontage that's not on the bulb? So they'd be penalized with this definition, because the whole lot isn't, but they easily need 200, they don't even need the 100 on those two lots,
Yeah, they're way over now.
way over.
All right.
So what do you think? Or, I mean, you can just leave it alone, but
That was just a question,
Okay.
what you thought of that.
Just trying to see what we're thinking.
All right. Claire?
Just for future thoughts, cul-de-sac is only mentioned in this one line in the whole bylaw thing, like the whole 144 pages, so you may wanna throw in a definition at some point.
it's not mentioned anywhere else. You did a search and it only came up here?
So far, yeah.
It's gotta be, that would be weird.
It's spelled
Well,
wrong.
no, it wouldn't actually in the zoning bylaw. It would be in the sub-rules and regs, but in the zoning bylaw, I guess it might not be that weird that it only appears.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second.
To leave it the way it is, or just when the lot, or add in the word frontage, when the lot, required lot frontage is completely situated. The whole lot's gotta be on the cul-de-sac or just the required lot frontage? Right now, the motion is the whole lot. So it's gotta be at or above the pole, at the neck of the cul-de-sac or above.
So what do
And
you
maybe
do?
that's fine.
And if some of the frontage is located down, then you're gonna require it. If
Then you
two-
can't do it, cause this says the lot is completely situated on the cul-de-sac.
You can run, yeah.
So you're, too bad for you.
Right.
You don't get 100 feet, you gotta go to the 200 feet. It might be okay. It might be fine.
I think it is.
Is it waiver provisions?
No,
No.
this is dimensional, and it's in the dimensional table.
And how many of these do we see in a given
Rare.
decade?
Rare. I
One.
mean, if they tried to squeeze a third lot in on that thing, you would've seen it,
Right.
but
Mm.
they're gonna get that in a different way.
So I think we spend too much time on something we're not gonna see very often.
So leave it the way it
I would
is.
agree.
Yeah.
Leave it the way it is.
Right.
And you don't, the whole lot has to be on the cul-de-sac.
All right. Claire?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't think I can come up with a geometric shape in which not having a width requirement would somehow allow them to magically create another lot. Right, 'cause even if you go to 100 feet, you can't like magically create some weird extra lot.
All right, let's go forward. All those in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Okay, last and most annoying
Hmm.
is J. All right, so we were trying to clean up K
Yeah, that
and
didn't
make
work
it
so well, huh?
clear that we allow common drives in both residential areas and business areas.
Mm-hmm.
We want to allow them everywhere, and that's how the wording was written, but it wasn't consistent. So, town council did that first change. A driveway which serves it said singular building lot, and he's like, singular means something very different than single, so you need to fix that. So, a driveway which serves a single buildable lot, okay? Common driveways may be allowed by special permit from the planning board in all zoning districts, and then we put in what you requested, that we go back to, but only to deal with the topographic or safety issue as determined by the planning board and in accordance with the following provisions. So we went back to, you can't just have common driveways because you want them. You have to have a topographic reason why you need it. So a little bit more restrictive, all right? And then We specified the minimum width of 18 for residential and 25 for industrial or commercial. We specified the residential construction standards already in there. We specified a greater construction standard for commercial industrial. And then we changed number 12, so a copy of said recorded deeds. Now this is 12, town council doesn't like. You can see town council feels there's a clearer way to affect this restriction and will provide appropriate wording to the board. So he doesn't want it, he doesn't like that you have to mickey with the deeds in advance of things, that you can create a restriction that goes on file and then just reference it in any deed that's transferred out. So he said he just feels there's a better way to do that.
Is he gonna have that in time for town meeting?
He's supposed to have it to me today, so I hope he'll have it to me
So
tomorrow.
we could have this modified accordingly?
Yeah, so I'll just modify that in the morning with whatever it is he recommends. And then again, we were just cleaning up the wording on 15 until the street numbers of the lots serviced by the common driveway are clearly posted. So it kills a house, because it's not just a house. Yes?
All right. Any questions, concerns?
Yeah.
Number 15, can we specify a size of the letters on it? Because if you go down Manchog Road and you look at the common driveway that serves the two lots immediately after, or kind of opposite the YMCA,
Mm-hmm.
the letters on that street sign there can't be bigger than an inch.
Yeah.
They're black on green, you can barely see the thing when you get
You
close
will
to
be
it.
so happy that as of probably the end of the week, there'll be a beautiful new post with way bigger numbers on it that the town's gonna install. But yeah, there's no
That-
problem.
that-
It's- Yeah, you could, I would say, why not?
The town should
So-
not be spending any money
On
on putting signs
existing-
up on.
Right.
On existing signs, we agreed to do that. On
No,
ones
that-
going
that-
forward,
So
no,
the-
they have to pay for them.
So
But
the
we'll
one,
still install, we'll still buy them, so they're all the same.
the new ones,
Yeah, we can specify.
don't they have to come through the town?
Yes, they do, so they're all
So
the same.
they're all gonna be the same, they're all gonna be the standard size
Well, we
letter?
can put in the.
They
letter.
pay for them.
They have to pay for them, so the town will order them, and they have to pay the cost, so they're all the same, because
So they're
we
not gonna
want-
be there.
They're willy-nilly, because we
Yeah.
want emergency services to be able to do the same sign. So they have to pay for them going forward.
So what is the spec on the
I don't
ones
know.
that we got ordered?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can put the size in, not a
All right.
problem.
Okay, so I'll make a motion, we support Article K with the following changes, that number 12 will reflect the verbiage provided by town council, and number 15,
We'll have a
street number size will be in accordance with town ordinances,
Or-
requirements,
well, the
specifications,
specs.
whatever that word is.
Town specs.
All right, do we have a second? Got a second? All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Motion to
Motion.
close.
Motion to close.
Close, right,
Second?
10:05.
I heard
Right.
several seconds there.
Yeah.
Scott.
No, wait, I haven't even voted on the other one yet. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now motion adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye. 5-0.
Wow.
You sound exhausted, guys. It's only 10:06.
Oh, wait, it's time to get.
We're all set.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Come on. We beat the symphony?